Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? There will be a moment of silence on the starting grid to pay respect to the UAE diplomats that were killed in Afghanistan on the 11th of January while on a humanitarian aid project. A moment of silence, please.
Well, hello everybody and welcome along to the Hankook 24 hours. The beautiful surroundings of the Autodrome here at Dubai and a packed grid. Somewhere at the front of that is our very own Nick Damon. Good afternoon, Nicholas.
Hello. Well, welcome to everyone. Welcome to the grid. Now, those of you who are veterans of these little grid walks I do will know that I sometimes manage to mince down the entire grid. But there are so many people on the grid today, an amazing uptick in the audience. It's fantastic. That might be more of a challenge. We're going to give it a go. But we're going to start right at the front, and we're going to start with a man in one of the cars at the poles. I'm going to have to go. You can get on your camera. That's fine. It's Khalid Al-Kabazi. Khalid, starting in the right place, very competitive. What are your thoughts to the race?
Yeah, I mean, starting on pole compared to the race is an easy thing to do, to be honest. Staying out in front is the most difficult, and staying out of trouble, and that's what we experienced the last 3 years, crashing out and having incidents. So we're going to take more care rather than risk and try to finish and hopefully finish first.
How important are these events, and of course the 12-hour Abu Dhabi a month ago, to the growth of motorsport in the UAE and the surrounding area?
It's really important, to be honest. Other than Formula One, this is what we have. This is a grassroots of motorsports. So the Creventic guys are really doing a great job. This has become now a spectacle rather than just a race. And we hope to build on it in this platform and hopefully something similar maybe in Abu Dhabi and the other tracks in the region.
And also congratulations on winning a couple of rounds WEC as well.
Thank you very much. That was fun.
So we go past that. That's our pole sitting car, the lovely slate grey. Now, slight surprise on the other side of the pole line in second place. It's a very lovely bright green Lamborghini, and one of the new drivers here, it's Rolf Inaichen. Rolf, are you surprised to be so far up the grid?
Well, yeah, you always have to be surprised. We know that we should be very competitive here, but if you look at the grid, there are so many good cars, so really good lineups in all the cars, and you always have to be happy when you can start out of the front row. And Mirko, who did the qualifying, did a great job. And but now it's a long race to go, and we'll see where it ends up. But we're very well prepared, and we're looking forward for the race. And yeah, we will enjoy it for sure.
What's the key to a good lap round here, a good consistent lap?
The key for a good lap is to manage the traffic, to be honest. It's there are more than 90 cars now with quite big speed difference, and so you have really to take care that you manage to come through without any contacts, and this will be the key for the whole race, not to have any contacts and stay out of trouble, and then we will see after 24 hours where it ends.
Rolf, thank you very much. Well, the key is to stay out of trouble with 90 cars on the track. Let's have a look at a lap round the Dubai Autodrome.
Well, the circuit is just over 3 1/3 miles long, down the front straight, over the top of the brow, into the turn 1-2 complex. Tricky downhill braking. Get yourself gathered up through 3 and 4, and then straight line through 5. 6 and 7 come up very quickly. 7 easy to get on the power too early, end up on the wrong side of the road. Through 8 and 9, there's a bit of banking there. Pick any line you want, really, but get off that corner quickly because you're down the long back straight. All the way down through the gearbox to 10 and 11. The left-hander at 11 is a little more difficult than it looks. Then you climb up to 12. Coming out of 12, got to get the car settled down because again it's over the top of the brow. 13 is flat in everything, and then 2 corners in 1 really at 14. Be careful coming over the top of the brow just before you turn right into 15. Down through the gearbox, get your braking right because you want to be beautifully coming out of 16 on to the front straight, and that hopefully will give you a perfect lap at 5.3 kilometres or just on 3 1/3 miles.
And down on the grid, we've got a refugee from a minor race series. It's Brendan Hartley. Brendan, how's your experience of GT3 Porsche going so far?
Yeah, it's been good. First 5 laps on Wednesday were interesting, but I got to grips with it yesterday, and the car's quick. Yeah, they put on the grid, P3 on the grid yesterday. So yeah, well, BOP all looks very even. I'm looking forward to the race. Although Wednesday, I said, look, traffic's not too bad. I think you came and spoke to me and said, it's not too bad. But it wasn't until free practice 3 when 100 cars rolled out that I realised it was very hectic out there. But it's going to be good fun.
Good question. You know, I'm sure our listeners and viewers want to know, why is someone who's a factory driver for Porsche in an MP1, why are you here?
I was very keen to do it. I mean, I actually pushed to get some experience in a 911. Yeah, and I think it's a bit weird as a factory Porsche driver. I've never actually driven or raced a 911, so I was keen to get the experience. A few years down the road, I'm keen to do the Nordschleife as well. So I guess it was the first little opportunity, and I jumped at it. They won quite a few races last year in this team. I got great lineup. So yeah, it was silly not to take up the opportunity, and I love racing, mate. So, you know, it's before our season started, and it just made sense.
Robert's starting the car. When do you get in?
I'm in 3rd.
We look forward to it. Thanks, Brendan. So that's 3rd place with a superstar. Now moving across to a team which is very familiar to those of you who follow Radio Show Limited races. It's the wonderful Optimum Motorsport. And shall we talk to the fast driver? No, let's talk to the manager. It's going rather better than you thought, isn't it?
Yeah, because I didn't do qualifying, I guess. No, Hassi did a great job. First time we've had him in the car, but he's already like a really good friend of ours, so he's done perfect. Top Audi, great credit to Optimum. Got some big teams here that we've already got behind us.
Joe Osborne, of course, those you don't know. You tried really hard in qualifying. You kept throwing tyres at it.
Yeah, we want to look like we're trying. Yeah, we threw 3 sets at it, but Hassi, by his own admission, said that he'd already done his best on the 2nd set, but we just wanted to be covered, really. we don't think the BOP is perfect for us, but we're definitely somewhere near the sharp end.
Where do you feel you are overall with the team? You've got a very strong team. Your gentlemen or gentlewomen drivers are pretty strong. Do you sit down and look at the other lineups and go, yeah, we'll match against those, or just concentrate on your own job?
No, for sure. We look at the other 10 GT3 cars that we think have got a chance of winning this race along with us. Yeah, Flick's really, really quick as an AM. The only problem with the rules out here is that the AM doesn't have a minimum driver time, so there could be potentially that the other WRT Audi potentially only puts her in for one stint, and Flick's going to do 4 or 5 because she wants to have some fun.
How important is this race now in your programme?
Yeah, I think it's only a second behind Spa 24 Hours for me in a GT3 programme these days. You've only got to look at the grid, how quickly it's grown in the last 5 years. That you've got Grasser, WRT, Black Falcon, all factory associated teams, and it's a good way to kick off the season, I guess.
Thanks, Joe. And in fact, Joe didn't know, but the amateur drivers have to do 2 hours each. So they won't just do one run, but of course those 2 hours could be under code 60. Let's meander a little bit further down the grid. They're helping me slightly by clearing, and we're going to try and find some of the other slightly interesting cars that we haven't seen before. I think we've got one of the... just over here, that's one of the Belgian WRT teams. That's the car that won last year. Actually, this is the winning machine from last year, the winning team, the main one. That's starting, I'll tell you now, that is who's starting the car? It's Chris Mees. Chris, chance of a repeat win this year?
Well, we try. It's not easy, obviously. You know, so many cars around here. Very good lineup, very strong cars, teams. Well, it can just get better. We are P9 now. We had a bit of a messed up qualifying. But from that point on, it can just get better.
Are you the busiest man in motorsport? A voice in my ear just told me you did 44 or 45 weekends last year.
I did, yeah. It was a bit too much, actually. I'm trying to do a bit less this year. You know, it's always good to have some time at home. But for sure, I go back to Daytona from here, from there straight to Bathurst, Australia. So I'm busy all the time, which is quite good. But sometimes you also need some time off.
Chris, good luck. Put your helmet on, as we need to do. So, try and avoid falling over an air jack. No, I need to speak to someone from this team. Unfortunately, they've all run away because there's a story on these 2 lovely, bright yellow RS01s in that they've played a very expensive game of musical chairs. Sitting in the car, who's sitting in the car at the moment of this? Is it Jean-Eric Verne? It might be. Or is it Jordan Groger? I can't tell by the eyes. Is that Jordan? Jordan, tell us about the musical chairs for your team.
It's a bit of a surprise to all of us, I think, but hopefully that's the last of the surprises for the next 24 hours, and we can all celebrate it with a few laughs at the podium.
What happened? Why did you need to swap Nicky to the other car, for example?
I think that's a question Creventic should answer.
OK, thanks very much.
Nick Damon down there on the grid, along with rather too many people at the moment. For those of you here listening on 87.6 and on the PA, can we please clear the grid? Clear the grid now. We have a motor race to get underway in a very short order indeed. Thank you very much for coming and getting close to the stars and cars of the Hankook 24 Hours. Our deal is we let you on the grid moments before a major international event, as long as you leave safely and quickly when we ask you to, and we are asking you to now. Hello to our listeners and viewers around the world, from Australia, the Americas, Hong Kong. Chris Jordan listening in there at the moment. It's the Radio Show Limited collective as we bring together the biggest audience of endurance motor racing fans. Let's head back down for the atmosphere on the grid with Nick Damon.
And some of the variety, because to my left, it's the unbelievable new Vortex machine, which is a fantastic car. Not only is it in a marvellous light blue silver, it's got huge holes. They've filled things in, they've drilled things out. It swoops in every angle possible. It's as modern as a car can look. And then, Seb, if you turn round, we've got Grandad car. It's the Dodge Viper, which is in a selective, lovely orange colour. So it just gives you an idea of the variety of machines. Going further back, as we are trying to catch up with where they've kind of cleared people off, because as they clear people off, all the other drivers get off, which is very unfair. 92 or 93 cars starting. Just want to grab a quick word with Stewie Hall, who's also involved in the other RS01. Stuart, are you sure you're in the right car? Give her the changes.
Yeah, I'm with the boss. I'm happy being with the boss.
What happened? Because Jordan didn't seem to know why there had to be a sudden swap.
Basically, I'll tell you, a load of other teams have thrown their toys out the pram. They don't like the lineup in that car. So they've tried to get it changed, and they've succeeded, but it's a long 24 hours and we're all on the circuit together.
Thanks indeed, Stuart. Better get the car. There we are. That's good. We like people who are prepared to tell us as it is. That's what we particularly like, in fact. So, continue moving down, past now the phalanx of various Porsches. This is the, oh, is it Silver Storm Streak of Light or something, isn't it? This car, apparently, and this is an unverified statement, was designed in 2005, tested only in the only wind tunnel in Hungary, and test-driven by the current world champion of F1, Nico Rosberg. Some or all those facts might not be true, but it's a fabulous story for the Silver Wing, which sounds more like a dangerous insect than anything else. Ah, the Mutrons. This is the new start for the Mutron team. There's Natasha trying to... Natasha, come on a second. You are the champions in Creventic, of course, in the TCR class. Now you're team manager. Excited, worried, frightened?
No, excited, definitely. Never worried, just excited, looking forward to it, and yeah, let's see how it goes. It's just the start. We've got a long race ahead of us.
Was it a difficult decision to decide to move up and get rid of that lovely little Seat?
It was sad, I'm not going to lie. Sad to say goodbye to it, but no, I think it was an obvious choice for us to move up.
Thanks very much. That's, of course, the Ramsey, Sammy and Neil Mouton and Phil Quaife, who is also Mr. Natasha, by the way, who we just spoke to. So, look at Porsche. Oh, that's a car that shouldn't be where it is. Hang on a second. It's the Hoffa machine, the championship car. I must have a quick word with Christian Frankenau. I've got one quick word for you. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
What are you doing back here on your birthday? Too much cake?
Well, yeah, they wanted to give me some overtakes for my birthday, so we thought, okay, start a little bit from behind.
Thanks, Christian. So that's your answer. Oops, I nearly ran over one of the other drivers. I've nearly run over a driver and I've nearly run over an air jack. So now we've got a very long way and we're still covered with fantastic high-end cars. There's a car collection Audi RMS. There's one of the MSG Porsches. There's the one of my favourite cars. Only because it's sponsored by a cake company. That's the Patisserie Valerie. That means, I've said that now, I must get a free cake, surely, for that one. But we are in Porsche land in the middle. Let's nip down and we can find ourselves now at one of the stalwarts of the Dubai 24 Hours. And that is the RJ Nissan, Bob Neville. Bob, another gang of little lads for you to look after.
Yeah, same faces as before, but... yeah, it's great to have them back here again. Yeah, we're very lucky to have Jan with us, of course. He's very high profile these days.
Yeah, Jan Marden about to get in the car, qualified the car well. You've had a kind of a checkered result here. You've had a couple of podiums and a couple of disappointments. I mean, it's a very venerable old machine, but how do you feel?
Well, I was thinking we've had a podium every time we've been here with one GT4 car, but when we've had two. And with the GT3 in 15,
in the pit lane, please.
We got podium as well. So this is a great race for us, but it's a very, very, very difficult race.
Is this the time you win the class?
This could be the time we win it. We've not.
Oh, it is, Robert. Bob, it is, isn't it?
Oh, all right, it is the time. It is.
Fantastic. It's all about positive thought.
Nick Damon with Rob Neville, who's the RJN in who's the R in RJN Motorsport, who do such a fantastic job. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you're on the grid, please, we must ask you to clear now. We are less than 10 minutes from the start of the 2017 International Motor Racing season here in Dubai, with the Hankook 24 Hours about to get underway. The grandstands are open. Take a seat in the shade. You can see almost all of the circuit from underneath our commentary point here, and it'll give you an opportunity to settle down and then maybe have a wander around as it gets a little cooler in the afternoon. Please, for the final time now, we're going to ask you to clear the grid as we head back down to Nick Damon.
And a traditional interview that also always happens, normally about this part of the track, as they're clearing the grid, it's Gary Williams. Gary, how are you doing? Of course, the man who runs Creventic. I thought every year I say this, it's bigger, it's better, it's more exciting, and we've got a massive crowd.
Yeah, that's great. I really like the crowd. Just finally coming to our race here in Dubai. This is fantastic. I think this is a crown on our work, and even the people, it's not really a motorsport city right now, but we try to make it a motorsport city. We're really, really happy with that.
Coming up in this rest of the year, you've got about, well, 14, 15 different events over 3 classes. Aren't you going to get a bit tired?
Yeah, it's a really tough schedule we had, really tough. But I know all the teams work hard, our volunteers work hard, our crew works hard. So we get it done. A little bit stressed, but at the end we are here. Well, look at the podium, really.
And they're going to get more action next year. You've already got the dates out for next year. We got a 12-hour prototype race on the previous weekend. Festival of Motor Racing. Just goes better and better, isn't it?
Yeah, the prototypes are another new hit from Creventic, and we really like it. But also, this is for the prototype will be for amateur and gentlemen like this. Have a look at the pit lane. People are really happy. I think we have to go on the grid.
We have to go.
Yeah.
See you. Thanks, guys.
And that's why this series has the atmosphere that it does, because Gary Willems and all of the rest of the Creventic team have that same enthusiasm for motorsport that everyone who is on the top of the pit buildings or standing and sitting beneath us in the grandstands, they are enthusiasts who just happen to run a motor racing series. The FIA International Endurance Series spreading out to more events this year, and this event next year moving to what I'm already calling the Dubai Endurance Festival. We'll have a 12-hour prototype race the Sunday before this weekend. That's going to be Sunday the 7th of January 2018. Now that's forward planning for you, and then we'll run into all of the normal running around and excitement that they are used to leading up to the Hankook 24 hours. So spreading through with some great prototype action earlier on this week that we enjoyed here with the Ginettas, the Ligiers and all of the CN cars, the Radicals. Yes, I'm looking at you, Phil. The Radicals and all of the other cars from 1500cc right up to 6.2 litres of prototype madness going on. And that will be the 7th of January. It's a Sunday 2018 as we then run straight into the GTs and the touring cars. The engines have fired. The grid has been cleared. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for that. And well, settle yourself down. Make sure you've got enough to get you through the next 24 hours in terms of eats and drinks, because this is the last time that we're going to see, hopefully, these cars stationary on the front straight. We are moments away from them rolling off on their formation lap, and what a picture that is now. Looking down the front straight, that is half of the grid. Looking backwards from the start and finish line, looking up from turn one, the Audi safety car is ready to lead them off around this 3.3 miles, 5.3 kilometres, using the Grand Prix circuit. The event that started with 58 cars in 2006 has come of age in the last couple of 3 years, and the Mercedes-Benz on the left of our picture will lead them out for Black Falcon, and Jerome Bleekemolen will be leading away the Grasser Lamborghini, the 911 of Robert Renard, the Herberth Porsche, the Optimum Motorsport Audi. 4 different cars on the first 4 positions on the 2 front rows. Behind them, it's Black Falcon Mercedes with Jelmer Burnham. Sven Müller for Manthey Racing Porsche, 3 and 12. Then 964, the second of the Grasser Racing Lamborghinis, ahead of Maxime Jus in the IMSA Performance Porsche. The names that are here: Chris Meese, only down at the bottom of the top 10 for WRT, and then we've got Falk Racing's Porsche, the 29 car. Before we go through the field, Jordan Kroger in one of the GP Extreme Renaults alongside the Conrad Motorsport Lamborghini. Edex Sport Racing and Cool Racing by GP Motorsports making up a grid further down as well. That's the Vortex, the leader in the SPX category. Don't worry about other classes as it stands at the moment, and it looks like the 172 has not got started. The little blue Team Cook Sport, Clio Cup Mark IV, that's one of the British teams, and they had some problems earlier on in the week.
It's got underway now.
A little bit of wheel spin and gets underway. That's good news for that as we continue to look down through the field. Memok Ogilvy Dual Racing. Nick talked to Natasha there, and you know, that is going to be a big ask for them to step up from the Seat to the Porsche 991 class. MRS GT got a couple of cars here this weekend. The GTL Racing Team Major boys, very well organised, both on the same row. That's what I like to see. The neat freak in me is what keeps me going. Into the 40s now, into the cars that either have had problems or have the touring car route. Century Motorsport next to the Nissan GT Academy Team RJN there. Is it Bob Neville's year? Is it the turn of that Nismo 370 to win its class? Track Club have got the Lotus here. Besserplas, where would we be without teams like Besserplas, who have brought cars here for longer than I like to remember? And the 53 car is with us again this year. Black Falcon also running a couple of Porsches in the minor classes, as well as the cars at the head of the field. Bonk Motorsport traditionally in the BMW class as well. That is the Cup 1 category for M235i cars. The Team Cook Sport car did get away at the end, and potentially some problems for one or two people at the back there in qualifying, but they've got 24 hours to make it up. A word from Paul Truswell before Graham Goodwin and Johnny Palmer take you through the first part of the race.
Tremendously exciting to watch these cars then going around the 2 formation laps. A bit of a concerning gap in the middle of them, but I think they'll close it all up before they slow down the pace for the final third of the lap. And this is the time when, having been here before, you kind of have the advantage, because those who haven't been before will find it a bit more, the butterflies beginning to go a little bit, and not quite sure what it's going to be like, how long they're going to have before they start catching up with traffic. It'll be about 2 laps, I think, before they start catching up with traffic. So fastest lap of the race will probably be set on the first 2 or 3 laps, we'll see. But this is the sort of time where you're not going to win the race, Graham, but you might make all kinds of decisions which you later regret.
You could, and to give an idea of just how big a field this is, as the lead car was led across the line by the Audi Corse car, the car at the rear of the field was just exiting turn 7. So, I mean, more than half the circuit, these cars streaming round. It looks almost like it could be a race at the moment, but on the second formation lap at the moment, it is indeed the time coming in just a few moments' time, Johnny Palmer, where people are going to need cool heads. Keep it on the island. Take your chances where you can safely. It's win without risk. That's Alina Gade quote, and we're going to be using that one, I think, quite a lot over the next 24 hours.
Just to give you some kind of idea of the length of the circuit and therefore the length of the train, if it was tracked back to turn 7, just under 5.5 kilometres. This circuit, that's a lot of cars, and many of them have already headed towards turn 10, and they're starting now to be side by side. So we have a Mercedes out front alongside a Lamborghini, then a Porsche and an Audi. A fabulous mixture then in the top 4 cars, as John Hindhoff mentioned. And the Black Falcon number 3 Mercedes will start from 5th position alongside the Porsche of Montai Racing. But the cars now working their way up to, or out of turn 12, with the black, red and yellow Black Falcon car of Khaled El-Khabaisi, Jerome Bleekemolen, Assenheimer and Metzger, and it is Bleekemolen, perhaps unsurprisingly, to take this opening stint. And although he'll have clear air in front of him, he'll have a whole host of A6 Pro stroke GT3 cars snapping at his heels and ready to pounce should Jerome Bleekemolen make a slight error. I don't think he will somehow in the opening few laps, but once we get onto lap 3 or 4, then it promises to be very, very busy for the race leaders. Mirko Bortolotti will start alongside the Dutchman. We have Robert Renauer in the 911 car and Christopher Haase in the Optimum Motorsport Audi number 14, starting from 4th place. The cars now are at the banked turn 14, and with the Audi pace car out front, a fabulous sight they make at a bright and sunny Dubai Autodrome. We're about to go racing for the first race, for me at least, for 2017. Unless you've been to Dakar, this will be the first motorsport action of your year. We've already been racing this week, of course, with the Proto Series and with 2 TCR races this morning. Short cut and thrust sprint races, but this is the key event of the weekend. And the Dubai 24 Hours for 2017 is about to get underway. There are 5 red lights that are immediately extinguished. The green flag is waved then from the gantry. Looks to be a good start from the Black Falcon, and Blake Mullen driven Mercedes AMG. He has shot away from the Lamborghini of Mirko Bortolotti. It's getting very condensed though in the middle order. Has everyone else got away safely further back down the straight as the leading cars funnel their way through turn 1 then on the opening lap. 5.39 kilometres of the Dubai Autodrome. Clean so far, although we're getting to a more tricky point of the circuit. The pinch point at 2, successfully negotiated. Blake Mullen building a lead of about 4 car lengths now to Mirko Bortolotti in the green Lamborghini second. And
progress at the start there from Sven Müller, the newest Porsche factory driver in the number 12 Factec Auto. Porsche up from 5th to 4th, going right over to the pit wall, take advantage of the inside line into turn 1. But that was pretty neat and tidy, Johnny, in what could have been a very tricky turn 1.
Yeah, and the leader's already onto the back straight then for this long run down towards turn 10. So the leader's starting to open up a little bit. It'll all get condensed again though down at turn 10 as Blake Mullen turns sharp right, and the pursuing GRT Grasser Racing car of Mirko Bortolotti with that AMG in his sights. Second position for the moment for the Lamborghini Huracan. The Porsche of Robert Renauer then still in third, but as you say, Sven Müller was really the man on the move in the red and white Porsche, number 12, run by Olaf Mantai's group Mantai Racing, and that car running, I think, now in 4th position, peering out towards turn 12. The cars will come properly back into the site of our commentary booth in a moment or two. There they go, heading towards the leaders already at 14, and now the kink at 15. And down the hill towards the final corner to complete the first lap of many over the next 24 hours. And yes, the bright orange and white Porsche of Sven Müller up to 4th position and challenging for places just ahead. So over the line, Blake Mullen leads the first lap by 1.2 seconds from Mirko Bortolotti's Lamborghini. Robert Renauer in the 911 Herbert Motorsport Porsche is third, but Sven Müller in the 4th place 12 car, certainly pressurising the other Porsche in the top 4. Jelmer Berman running 5th in the number 3 Black Falcon Mercedes. So the loser on that lap, Christopher Haase from 4th to 6th for Optimum Motorsport. Then it's Christian Engelhardt, Maxime Jus, Andrea Remici in the HB Racing number 7 car, which is the Lamborghini Huracan of the HB Racing team. That car is running in 9th position ahead of Christopher Mies in the number 4 Belgian Audi Club car. Remember, those guys won this race 12 months ago.
Already progress being made by that number 1 car. We heard Nick talking on the grid. Christian Frankenhout already up into what is down around 20th place and making further progress on this lap. Streaming around, very clean so far though, but no shortage of wheel-to-wheel action, certainly down in the classes. And I think we're going to see the leader with the little Clios on this lap.
On this lap, you think?
Possibly as early as... No, it could be early the next lap, isn't it? I've just seen the final car coming through. As the leader passed us to complete its first lap, final car in the train, just exiting turn 7.
Yeah, well, indeed. We've made the point that there are so many cars in this race that the distance between the leader and the back of the pack is significantly large now. We thought it was impressive just on the formation lap. Leaders now back at turn 14 for the second time. Blake Mullen is probably over a second and a half now out front. We'll confirm that at the line, but the battle is definitely on for 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Bright green Lamborghini versus white Porsche. That's the Herbert Motorsport example. And then the Mantai Racing Porsche number 12 with Sven Müller at the wheel.
Somebody's comprehensively taking out one of the marker boards amongst the lead group at pit-in. I think that was one of the Renault RS01s. So the Porsches are going well, the Lamborghinis are going well, some of the Audis are going well, but the Mercedes at the front of this field, Johnny, is going fantastically well. Under 2 minutes the last time around. 1:59.215 gives Blake Mullen a 2.1 second lead over the chasing Mirko Bortolotti.
No change in the order for the top 10 after lap 2. Christopher Mies, though, is under pressure from Lance David Arnold in the number 16 car, and Chris Mies, therefore, needing to keep his eye on the mirrors in the SPS Automotive machine number 16. Caught a glimpse of that. In fact, those cars go. heading now for turn 9. So Lamborghini of Andrea Amici is in 9th, Christopher Mies is 10th, 11th position Lance David Arnold, and Arnold getting a really good run this time on the Belgian Audi Club Audi R8. Pulls out of line, is level, and might actually be able to take the place just before they get to the corner. The problem is turn 10 is a right-hander. No, the Mercedes gets through. Fabulous work under braking there from Lance David Arnold to pick off Christopher Mies. That's 10th position.
Yeah, and already a couple of joker laps. We'll explain a little bit about that in a little wee while when this thing calms down just a little. Duncan Huysman in the V8 Racing, the Chevrolet Corvette, has just burned one of his, and unfortunately not by very much, 202.764, and the same for it's Christian Frankenhout has just popped under the 205 mark in the number 1 car. So one of the 10 laps they're allowed under their bracket time effectively has already gone for those 2 cars.
Clios are having now to make way for the A6 Pro cars that are working their way through. So there's the first bit of lappery. The purple and orange Clio sensibly staying off the racing line as charging through on the right-hand side the top 10 A6 Pro cars. It's still Blake Mullen out front, 2.291 seconds now the gap back to Mirko Bortolotti. Robert Renauer and Sven Muller 3rd and 4th. Jelmer Berman is in 5th position. There's a second between Muller and Berman in the second Black Falcon AMG. Christopher Haase from Optima Motorsport running in 6th place. Then Engelhardt, Jus, Amici and Lance David Arnold, one of the highest movers, if you like, having got by Christopher Mies on that lap. There was also some shuffling of the order a bit further back with Marcel Fessler in the number 5 Belgian Audi Club car overtaking Duncan Huysman for V8 Racing. So the 18 Corvette dropping a spot.
So at least 3 FI World Champions on this grid with Brendan Hartley and Marcel Fessler, both FIWC champions, and the FI GT World Cup champion Mara Engel from last year, from 2 years ago rather, also racing here. It's close stuff, isn't it? Jerome Bleekeman is trying to get away here, but Bortolotti is having none of it, beginning to get close to matching the times of the Mercedes-Benz ahead. 2.3 seconds, all but a sniff last time around, and then behind him it is a snarling pack of GT3s in very close proximity. One little slip there and there's going to be positional change in the top 10.
SPX battle also one to keep our eyes on in positions 18 and 19th overall, but that's a lead battle in category SPX between the number 24 Cool Racing by GPC Motorsport Vortex and the Vortex V8. So 2 Vortices, should we say, together at each other and separated by only 0.6 of a second. But the Mercedes of Jerome Bleekemolen is leading by just under 2.5 seconds after 3 and a bit laps.
Yeah, we can only hope that some of these little Clios have got GoPros installed, because they're coming soon to you know, YouTube near you. There's going to be some very exciting footage indeed in car as more GT3 cars than you'll see in a regular season stream by at a ridiculous speed, but very clean start to this race up and down the field.
Jordan Kroger applying some pressure on Mark Basseng in the Conrad Motorsport Lamborghini and dives down the inside at turn number 1. Hopefully there won't be any contact at this early stage in a 24-hour race, but Kroger, that was a full-blooded attempt at trying to snatch that place away from the Lamborghini. Didn't quite come off though.
Jordan Kroger, of course, knows this track like the back of his hand. A regular contestant here in past years with Dragon Racing, now aboard this stunning Renault RS01 Nissan V6 twin-turbo engined car, carbon tubbed, and late of the Renault Sport Trophy, now of blessed memory, but this car running in GT3 specification and is hustling that car along on the Conrad Motorsport Lamborghini Huracan. Seems to have a bit of an advantage just on traction out the corners at the moment, the Lamborghini, but certainly when it gets to the twisty bits, the Renault closes right up. Under braking there again. That's actually just in the brake. He's on up the inside now, and it's Jordan Kroger. Not quite, and there's contact.
Oh dear. Now that's down at turn 10, isn't it? Yes, with the Lamborghini stuck in the middle of the track. Thankfully it's managed to rejoin without further contact, but Mark Basseng did not want that. I thought they'd come very close to each other at turn number 1 and was really hoping that we didn't get that sort of result only 10 minutes into a 24-hour race. There it is again. Jordan Kroger stabbing his nose up the inside of Mark Basseng. Basseng turning into the corner as he was duly bound to do, and the Lamborghini Huracan of Conrad Motorsport pirouetting. It's rejoined, having lost 5 or 6 places.
Also a spin and recovery for the number 11 GDL Team Asia Lamborghini Huracan. This one of the Super Trofeo cars in the race, but that car has continued as well. So first significant incident, Johnny. It's unlikely on balance to be the last.
You would think not. And Alban Veruti, who had just been overtaken, I think, by Groger and by Mark Basseng, is now right on the boot lid of the GP Extreme Renault RS01. So that's the EDEC Sport Mercedes in its traditional EDEC livery with the black, white and red colours. Veruti also bringing with him an Audi of Marcel Fessler.
Absolutely. EDEC Sport, by the way, one of the very few teams in world motorsport to contest with prototypes, GTs and yachts.
Really?
Indeed.
I didn't know that.
Absolutely.
Fun facts from Graham Goodwin in the opening hour of this year's 24 Hours of Dubai. RadioLeMans.com bringing you unrivaled and non-stop coverage of this year's Dubai 24 Hours, our first motoring event of the year, which January into February, always a very busy period of our season. And this is a great way to kick things off. Jérôme Bleekemolen on lap 6 has a lead of 2.7 seconds then over Bortolotti. Robert Renauer still third, and fourth place Sven Muller.
Yeah, incident involving those two GT3, or the rather, apologies, the A6 class cars under investigation. We'll keep you up to date with anything that comes back from race control from that. 2.7 seconds that lead. But just a hiccup or any kind of error in traffic, we'll see those two cars nose to tail again. Just looking for cars making progress up through the field. Actually falling back a little, Christian Frankenhout has actually dropped back a couple of places since that early progress.
Now, an awful lot happening at the start of that race. Thankfully, not a lot of incident, but there is a chance now for us to see that again. So, as the red lights went out, the cars pouring their way out of turn 16 then. And this is the great getaway for Jérôme Bleekemolen, with lots of flag waving up on the gantry there. But Bleekemolen getting the jump on Mirko Bortolotti in the bright green Lamborghini. There's Robert Renauer in the plain white Porsche, and a superb start for Sven Muller, picking off at least 2 cars there in the run down to turn number 1 from the start-finish line, and that kind of got him out of trouble, I suppose. Muller still in 4th position and getting his head just above water to be in front of Berman, Haase, Engelhardt and Lance David Arnold, who's picked off Maxime Jus since we last mentioned him, by the way. So Lance David Arnold really on the move in the number 16, that camouflage liveried SPS Automotive Mercedes.
Top 11 cars still within 10 seconds of the leading car, but the lead had gone just a tad over 3 seconds for the first time for Jérôme Bleekemolen. The Black Falcon team, absolute stalwarts of this race down through the years. And this AMG GT3 is proving to be a very potent endurance machine indeed. So V8 powered Mercedes-Benz leads V10 powered Lamborghini, leads flat 6 powered Porsche at the moment.
Yeah, with the engine of the Porsche hanging over the rear wheels of that third placed car. Now, the 2:04 car, its lap time was too fast, I'm told by Paul Truswell, so there'll be a stop-and-go penalty of 30 seconds. There are no jokers involved in category SPX, and that's the number 19
that's
Dodge Viper,
that's
isn't
the
it?
Dodge Viper, the venerable Dodge Viper. These Viper competition coupes entered production back in 2001, would you believe?
204 car, by the way, is the Vortex V8, which is currently running second in SPX, but it's already gone below the Joker lap, Paul.
Yes, that's right. Although I said stop and go on that little bit of paper I just passed you, strictly speaking, it's not a stop and go penalty in the normal way of running things. It's a time penalty that it has to spend in the penalty box at its next pit stop. So not a stop and go penalty in the sense that it interrupts the flow of the race for that car, but it will mean that its next pit stop he'll have to spend some time in the penalty box, which we will come to know and love down here, almost in front of us here.
Yes, almost as if it's been designed deliberately so that we have this crow's nest view of the penalty box that will be visited as the cars make their way in for a stop. And there, theoretically, if a car has to serve a penalty, you might actually see a car stop on 3 separate occasions within the pit lane. Penalty with the team on the apron and for fuel as well.
Indeed.
Yes, but on the bright side, if you've got to take 2 penalties, for example, you don't have to do them in 2 different pit stops. You can do them all at once. So you could take 2 or 3 penalties all in the same unit at the pit stop penalty box.
It's an accumulative thing.
Yeah, so effectively you're not losing an additional 35 seconds or so over and above the penalty you've been dealt. Plus, yes.
Understood. Here are a number of Seats, and also there's the Honda Integra there, the DC5 working its way into turn number 1, car 48.
Going up the inside of the 121 Seat.
Which therefore isn't one of the lap 57 cars. Car 48 is run by ZRT Motorsport, who are an English crew. So they're from the United Arab Emirates, I beg your pardon, but Chris Yarwood is the named man against that team. He is English, along with Graham Davidson, the Scottish driver, Umar Khan from Pakistan, and Jonathan Mullen, who is Irish, although based, I believe, in the United Arab Emirates and running on that licence. So their little Integra DC5 going strongly in the early stages. And fighting in amongst, I reckon, cars from that same class, Class A2.
Well, the class battles are no less fiercely fought. If you're watching trackside here, pick a car in each of these classes and just watch the way they progress through the next 24 hours. It's a fun way to do this, particularly with the more junior classes, just to keep an eye on the progress of a favourite car, whether it's a driver that holds your interest, whether or not it's a crew from a particular country, a colour scheme, or even the make of car. Just do that trackside, and it does add another level of interest. It's a bit like, Johnny, I mean, I know you support a lower-ranked football club in the UK, don't you?
Wasn't always the case. Matches your T-shirt, in fact.
Thank you very much. Come on, you Blackpool.
Yes. The gap between first and second is 0.6 of a second. So Blake Molan obviously is having to thread his way through quite a bit of traffic at the moment, and Bortolotti maybe is able to judge that better than Blake Molan, being that bit further back, and has that bit more time, therefore, to decide whether he's going to go left or right. I think that gap, though, between first and second is going to fluctuate quite a bit over the next hour or so.
Just watching that lead battle coming through at the bottom end of the circuit, down by the floral tribute to the Airbus A380. And it is very close indeed, a massive gaggle of traffic for the leading cars at the moment. So anything could happen in the next third of a lap. Keep tuned, I'm sure you will. Here they come, back into our side, up past the pit lane exit. It is tenths, the gap now between the two Bs. It's Blake Mullen from Bertolotti, it's the Mercedes-Benz from the Lamborghini. And to complete the lap, it's going to be, I think, about 2 or 3 tenths of a second here, Johnny.
RadioLeMans.com with Graham Goodwin and Johnny Palmer in the main booth at the moment, and Joe Bradley's down in the pit lane. We'll hear from him in just a second, but if you are not only listening to us on RadioLeMans.com but also enjoying us via the live stream, which is readily available on the internet, then we're just going through various numbers of our onboard cameras, currently enjoying the view from Jan Mardenborough and the 123 Nissan GT Academy Team RJN car, 42nd position, and Jan Mardenborough giving us this tour on the live stream. Whilst you enjoy that, going to get a word with Joe Bradley for the first time. Come in, Joe.
I'm not sure.
Not hearing Joe for the moment. We'll sort that out in just a second. Graham, you were about to say?
We've got a car moving slowly. We're here from race control from turn 7. Haven't spotted that car on track. should have said as well, by the way, this 1-2-3 car is leading a much larger GT4 class, SP3 this year, than we've seen in recent years. So that's a healthy sign as well. Not only is GT3 growing, I can now see that car going down the back straight. It is indeed very slow. And from my vantage point, can't quite see what that car is. Picking up speed again. One of the GT cars. So cars continuing to lap this fabulous Dubai Autodrome in the bright sunshine. And why would it be any different? Well, we have had heavy rain in this race in recent years. 0.6 of a second is all that separates the top two after 40 minutes of the 24 Hours of Dubai. We're watching the V8 Racing number 18 Chevrolet Corvette. This is, I believe, the ex-GT1 Corvette, a Spa 24-hour winning car from past years, many past years now. Corvette C6, fabulous beast, and of course balanced back to the GT3 level of performance, and eventually set pole position in the A6AM class last night, Johnny.
Now let's give Joe Bradley another go. That was entirely my fault, Joe, so do come in from the pit lane. Hopefully you've still got your guest.
All right, I'm going to have to explain to... working. I think he's walked off. He thinks he's jinxed everything. The problem is, of course, with the 19, I say, of course, a differential is not a spare they carry. So what they're going to do is they're going to strip the diff off and try and repair it. Heaven knows what's wrong with the thing inside.
Okay, thank you, Joe, and let's just give you an update then on exactly what the issue was. The diff for the Dodge Viper has gone, and they're going to have to try and sort that out if possible, but they're not carrying spares.
And the TV curse strikes again, I'm afraid, because the number 48 Honda Integra, we were talking just a little while ago about that locally based car, Johnny, that is on pit road and straight into the garage for the number 48 Honda as well. So trouble early on for two of those cars. Let's hope we do see the Dodge Viper out, because amongst the drivers in that car, I'm pretty certain, is Ivo Broikers. So fingers crossed that the Dodge team can get the 8-litre V10 powered Dodge Competition Coupe back on track. Back to the lead of the race though, and down comes the gap, the lead gap again, 0.291 of a second.
Maybe not.
And behind this battling pair, we've got the rest of the group closing in. It's just 2 seconds back from the leader to Robert Renault and the number 911 Porsche 911. The Precoat Herbeth Motorsport car. This is the car that will see Brendan Hartley aboard later in the race. Sven Müller in fourth position in close proximity to the identical, mechanically identical, visually not, Porsche 911. So Porsche's third and fourth, and through the, here's the lead battle coming through another gaggle of traffic into and through turn one in amongst GT4 and touring cars. There behind the Porsche is his closest tormentor, Mirko Bortolotti, making slightly more work of passing this group, so this gap is going to come out a little again.
And whilst you enjoy that, let's get a word with Nick Damon, who's the other end of the pit lane.
Yeah, the 48, which Graham spotted coming in, driving straight into the garage. I'm sure it's pushed because it's illegal to go straight to the garage. Had a problem we've seen before in Creventic races, especially with these Hondas, is it went into limp mode. So it has actually got a standard ECU, which they put a racing chip in, but it gets upset. It goes into limp mode, and they have to do a Control-Alt-Delete, and that's what they've done. But I think it was the Ricky Kuma car, the 99 machine, which did this in Brno about 17 times. Hopefully, it's the only time we'll see the 48.
That should make clear. Nick's absolutely right. It's not what happened. The car came in and was perfectly executed. The pit stop. The car came to a halt, an echelon to the pit carriage. The guys pushed it backwards into the pits. So he's absolutely right. You are not allowed to drive the car into a pit carriage under power. They didn't do that. So fingers crossed. Not too much for drama for the 48.
The rule is that it mustn't go into the pits using the engine. If it's using momentum, then that's okay. So if he switched the engine off and it then rolled into the garage.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You had the engine on. You could hear the engine on, could you?
No. I just saw no. I'll explain. The car came in, went so they could easily push it backwards into the pits. There was no power.
Reversed it into the pits.
They pushed it into the pits. They pushed the car into the pits. The crew.
Oh, that's all right then.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. Oh, no, that's fine. Sorry, I misinterpreted what you said.
We thought that little gaggle of traffic, Johnny, might actually cost a bit of the gap that Mirko Bortolotti had grabbed back. It has indeed. It's over 2.5 seconds now as they clear that lot of traffic. Here's a little bit more to play with, and you can see the two Porsches closing in rapidly now. And in fact, Sven Müller going one side, one of the little Clios behind this battle, as Robert Renault went the other side. Might we have a new third place car before too long? The 48 car is back out on track, but not very quick at the moment. I think that car's still in trouble. And unfortunately, that seems to have gone back into limp mode just as he started the lap. That's going to be a long way back for the 48. Coming past us now at, well, trotting speed. I'd say walking speed. I can't walk that quickly, but it's a long way back. And we've gone for a yellow flag at the start-finish straight because it's a dangerous place for that to happen. Drivers concentrating on pit boards and instruments when you hit a long straight, and it's all too easy to miss the fact that the next car along is moving very much slower than you are, as we've seen in recent endurance races, famously at the end of Nürburgring 24 hours some years ago. The little Renault Clio was comprehensively collected by one of the Monti Porsches at the very end of the race, but the 48 car is continuing around and will try to complete this lap, I think, to pit. But my guess is that's a recurrence of exactly the same problem. As Nick Damon told us, car going into limp home mode. Electronics not liking what they're hearing, and that was, look to me, that was a hit from the rear on the 777 car by one of the Seats.
And these are live pictures, by the way. This isn't a replay, so full marks to the truck operating the onboard cameras on the live stream, because we flicked to 777 right in the thick of the action there, with Bertram Hornung having to totally use the opposite lock to straighten that thing up. And here it is again. So can't see the other car at the moment, and now it's the 303. I wonder whether it was the car that we saw in action in the TCR sprint races this morning.
Yeah, fantastic pickup there. Thank you very much.
Well, entirely unintentional, but sometimes I suppose things go right, don't they?
Yeah, I think probably good we can't actually hear from in-car audio at that particular moment. Otherwise, the man on the button would be very busy.
So the next job is to work out who was driving the 303 car, and I'm going to have to cycle through various screens here to provide you an answer. It's not on that one. I'll leave that in the capable hands of Paul Trustwell, who might be able to tell me. Kane Aston, okay, well, he was the guy that did both TCR drives, and it might be a bit of strategy to put him back in again then, because he knows exactly how the car behaves around this circuit.
Needs to get out of touring car mode and into endurance mode, maybe.
Mini 7 mode as well.
But yeah, that was unfortunate.
The 777, by the way, is a Porsche Cayman GT4 Club Sport, with Bertram Hornung driving that at the moment, sharing with Hans Sadler, Norbert Kraft and Philipp Bethke, in the SP3 division. Hopefully that won't have created any long-term damage. There is the Red Camels.nl Seat, by the way, driven by Kane Aston. Can't see any visible damage on the front of that car.
Built like a brick wall, these Seat TCR cars. Gap is coming down again as the lead cars, what am I about to say, getting into clearer air. There's no clear air available here. Less traffic, I think we'll refer to it. 1.5 seconds now. And the Porsches, by the way, stayed in the order they went into that same corner. Robert Renault, the 911, ahead of the 12 of Sven Müller. But they're still just separated by just over a second. It's 4 seconds the gap between the top 4. It's just over, just under 10 seconds the gap with the top 7. So the leading group are getting away a little here. The gap's coming out, albeit quite slowly. Top 10, it's Black Falcon Mercedes of Jerome Blakemolen from Mirko Bortolotti in the GRT Grasser Racing 963 Lamborghini. Then Robert Renard in the Precourt Herbert 911, as in comes the 48, having found a little bit more speed towards the end of that lap. Gets back in after going back into limp mode. Second pit stop for that car. Sven Müller in the Monsai 12. Fourth, Jelmer Berman in the second, the Black Falcon Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3s. Fifth, Christopher Haase in the 14 Optimum Motorsports Audi is in sixth. Then it's the number 16, Lance David Arnold in the SPS Automotive Mercedes. Christian Engelhardt in the second of the GRT Grasser Racing Lamborghinis. Next up, Andrea Amici in the HB Racing number 7 car. There's another pit caller, number 111, the Hankook liveried Track Club Lotus Evora. And then Chris Meese in the WRT number 4 Audi completes the top 10.
And Maxime Hughes from the start has lost 1 or 2 positions, currently running around in 11th place. Last lap around was a 2 minutes .285. He trails Christopher Meese by only 0.4 of a second though, so still definitely got somebody to race with. There's quite a gap actually behind Maxime Hughes as well in that IMSA Performance Porsche 991 car, although it's an A6 Pro machine.
And I think that was the 83 Clio pitting as well. So I look down towards pit lane. It can't be, because it isn't an 83 Clio.
53.
53.
111 you got in, didn't you? You told us about that, and 53 is the other one who's in the pits, yeah.
Now there's the little Vortex 1.0. Car 24 from Cool Racing by GPC Motorsport. In the thick of action, as you can see, just lapping one of the Porsche Cup cars, and this is the class leader.
And 21st position overall, as the number 48 crew take a good long look under the bonnet of the number 48 Honda Integra. We've got another slow car on the back straight. We'll keep an eye out for which car that might be that's in trouble. I can see it's a white, might be a BMW. Is it the new BMW M4 GD4? It could be.
The V8 Racing Chevrolet Corvette having to work its way through an awful lot of traffic there, down to turn number 1. Got it done, did Duncan Houseman, who is very experienced in the Dutch Supercar Challenge and also the European GT4 series. And of course with V8 Racing, been racing with those guys for a number of seasons now, and Duncan Houseman incredibly quick in this Chevrolet Corvette. Is that still the former GT1
I'm sure that is the ex-Spa 24-hour winning car from what must be a decade ago now. It's not the GT4 BMW, you couldn't quite catch the number. It definitely isn't that car though. It's another all-white BMW running driver's left off the racing surface and now making its way up to the hairpin. We'll be back towards pit road in just a little while, running at some speed, certainly not racing speed.
We will watch the progress of that car then on its presumably in-lap over the next few moments. In the meantime, to Joe Bradley.
You guys just described the number 111 Lotus Evora coming onto pit road. Driver reports being hit by a Clio. They're just checking the right rear of the car, so he's been hit in the right rear. Bodywork looks fine, so it must have been a hard hit. They're checking around the drive shaft area and the rest of the suspension to see if there's been any tweaks. Can we clarify what the plural is for Clio Cup cars? Is it Clio's Cup or Clio Cups?
Anyone the wiser, Graham?
Yeah, Renaults.
Renaults. That's nice and simple, isn't it? Yeah, we'll do that. And the other end of the pit lane is Nick.
And the other end of the story, because the 53 team Sally came with accident damage. They had a hard hit on the front left, and they were having a look at how deranged the suspension was. And there was an awful lot of rubber all over the side of the car. So I don't think it takes Maygrey to work out that 111 and 53 come together.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
And it's the 114 BMW. He's missing a wheel. That car is missing a wheel. The front left wheel is gone from that car and has made it back to pit road and is making its way down there now. The position marker lights in the window put it as 76th position as it crosses the line, is pushed straight into the garage. I'll be clearer this time. We've had yellow flags briefly at turn 14, but they've now been withdrawn, so whoever's had a minor whoopsie, that's now gone. Someone's enjoying himself. Excellent. And that might... oh, dear me. That's not the required line.
No, it's not. That's at turn 2, isn't it? There are those rather large blocks, which I think are foam or polystyrene, that are sitting on the inside of turn 2, ready to catch out. Only a slight mistake, and you would clean one of those blocks out in rather dramatic fashion. But the Clio that we just caught a glimpse of on the live stream there, dodging to the left and avoiding all of that and rejoining the race. Now, there is a yellow flag on the live stream caption. I can't see that replicated on the timing screen at the moment. That might be an earlier message.
That might be a slightly earlier message for something that's happened at turn 14 and is now gone away. Mirko Bortolotti still under a second back. He's being caught by the number 911 Porsche, which has just got a little bit of an edge now on the 12. Number 3.
And Nick's
into the pits, though.
Yeah, Nick's down there.
Yeah, I saw the repair. I thought that sounds a bit of it previous, but it's actually obviously a situation with a bad set of tyre flat, because they have completely just changed all 4 tyres and run the thing out as quick as possible. No driver. Let's have a quick look, see if he hangs the right for fuel. At the moment, no. It's trundling down the pits, going very slowly. There's a lot of dust from the earlier dust storm, so the diffusers are kicking up a load of dust. Yep, he's gone right for fuel as well, so no driver change. Fresh set of tyres, and they're now having a look at them. Hopefully Seb will be able to give you a look at them looking at the tyres. While I'm on, the 114, the white BMW that came in, that has sheared off its hub. So it wasn't a case of the nut coming undone. The actual conical shaft, because of the single nut selection, had sheared off. No obvious sign of tyre problems, guys. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Okay, he's full of facts there, isn't he, at the moment, Nick Damon, covering about 2 or 3 cars.
It's a fact machine,
yeah,
Nick Damon.
Starting as we mean to go on.
Not the worst thing at this stage of the race to actually have that early stop, whatever's caused it, because of course what it does mean is they will now come in on a completely different cycle to all the other leading cars, which means they should have a less busy pit lane, Paul.
Well, yes, so less busy pit lane, less important than a less busy refuelling area, because it's the refuelling area which can sometimes get a bit busy. The problem is we're now half an hour into the race, 36 minutes into the race, and if we would get a code 60 now, that would probably encourage a lot of people to come in and make a pit stop. The rules under code 60 is you can only put half your allowed fuel amount into the car, so it's not so valuable, but having used half a tankful, which is what they've done, because they've done more than half an hour, so they've used more than half a tankful, they can get that amount of fuel into the car, so they might as well. So any time up until now, it's kind of 50-50 whether you'd have a pit stop if a code 60 happens. Now we've got this situation, it is worth coming in as soon as the code 60 happens. Otherwise, the cars will be running through, I reckon, until about the 1 hour mark, maybe as many as 36 laps, I reckon, because, of course, they'll have been brimmed from the start, so they can go through, so they use the full 120 litres. So any time from about the 1 hour mark to the 36 lap mark, we'll see the routine pit stops. Meanwhile, out on the circuit...
we might be just about to get exactly that, because the 48 car that's already been in trouble has ground to a halt between turns 8 and 9. Yellow flags there. It will require recovery unless that driver can re-fire the engine. And while that's happening, we've got a real lead battle back, because Mirko Bortolotti is right on the tail of Jerome Bleekemolen. I'm going to watch the timing stand to see whether or not there's the sign of a purple flag in hand. But the 48 car is stationary on circuit.
Yeah, to drivers left on the exit of turn 9, and that, as we know in the past here at Dubai, can be a vulnerable place for a car to be sitting. only because the recovery vehicles tend to be based on the other side of the track and need to cross it in order to recover that little Honda Integra.
We've got Code 60.
Yeah.
Code 60 flags are out on the start-finish line.
Well, here are the leaders coming out of the final corner, separated by nothing really at all. And they will immediately back off then to the 60 kilometres per hour that is required under this Code 60. And if you're unfamiliar with Creventic racing and 24H series racing, the Code 60 is effectively a virtual safety car, because everyone now has to stick to the 60 kph speed limit around the circuit, and this enables the Honda Integra DC5 in this case to be recovered safely, but it also maintains the gaps between the various cars. So we had nothing at all at the line between Jeroen Bleekemolen and Mirko Bortolotti, just half a second, and theoretically once we restart this race that gap will be very, very similar. 1.7 seconds back to Robert Renauer as the cars slowed for the first Code 60 of 2017. Sven Muller is 4th and Christopher Haase in 5th.
And it's going to get very busy indeed down in pit road now. Paul Truswell absolutely spot on, and a number of cars, including some of the cars from just behind the leading group, the 21 Conrad Lamborghini, the number 5 WRT Audi amongst that group that's pitted immediately.
Set to get very, very busy in the pit lane now, Graham, and our men on the spot, Joe. And first of all, Nick, what can you see?
After a brief full storm, we suddenly got a slew of cars towards the bottom of the track. The first car in was the 69 Black Falcon, one of their 3 Porsches, one of the 911s, but that was already coming in, so that's actually probably only gained the chance of a greater amount of fuel. They had what looked like another one of our popular Control-Alt-Delete situations there, and it came out. So that wasn't brilliant prediction, that was already coming in. Oddly, the cars that have all come in have gone down to Joe's end.
That's because they've just come in for fuel. They've taken the opportunity of the Code 60. Now remember, they are only allowed under Code 60 regs to take on 50% of their fuel allocation. But that's a very good tactical move. That's just going to stretch everyone's fuel window, stretch it a little bit longer. The only car that I saw peel off to its pit apron was the Lamborghini. I'm just going to get out of its way, as it's the number 21. It's the number 21 Lamborghini that's come in and taken on tyres. Driver, whoever it is in that 21, has stayed on. It's the Conrad car, and now that car has gone for fuel. But the majority of the field that did come into the pits, straight past us and into the fuel station. It's going to be a very, very busy fuel station down there.
It's Mark Basseng aboard the number 21 Conrad car, and it looked to have a slightly muffed kind of rejoin there. I'm not quite sure whether you saw it. The car started, moved forward a couple of metres, then stopped again, or was stopped again by the crew. So I think possibly they hadn't quite got one of those tyres installed correctly, but away and into the fuel area now for the 21 after no further delay. And no real damage in time there for that.
Joe does know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it ran over its air hose, and then there was a kind of a dual thing went on. They stopped the car because it was about to run over its air hose, and then somebody on the opposite side of the car noticed something on the rear end and put that to rights. While you're with me, the 111 Lotus Exige, the only thing damaged by that contact with the Clio was what I could see was a track control arm, which they've replaced, and it's already back out and in the race.
So not a lot of trouble and not serious for the Lotus, which is good news. The 241 Porsche Cayman, the Alphab car, one of the latest batch in. Still cars streaming in, as of course it's a long lap under Code 60, so even the first racing lap under Code 60 will take some time for the cars that choose to head down pit road to get there. We're still waiting for the number 48 to come under tow back into pit road, and it gets to pit entry now. I think we'll be going back to green, unless there's other things that need to be attended to around the circuit pretty soon. Course car stops at pit in.
5 minutes 24 seconds is a lap for Code 60. So if you were just coming past the start-finish line, as I think Bleekemolen was, he'd just come through across the start-finish line when the purple flag was shown.
That's right, he was, yes.
He didn't have the opportunity to come into the pits, hasn't had the opportunity to come into the pits yet. And by the time he does have the opportunity to come into the pits, A, it will probably have gone green, but B, the refueling station will probably be full.
Not coming into the pits, and nor is Mirko Bortolotti, who appear at the turn 16 exit now on the live stream, right behind that Seat. And we're still code 60 at the moment.
We're code 60 because the course car stopped at pit-in. One of the officials in the course car got out, waved a yellow flag behind the car. That car's now reversing back.
The 12's in, so Sven Muller's deciding to pit from third position. And therefore, what's happened to Robert Renauer? He's about to cross the line.
Because he can go more quickly in the pit lane on the code
because
60.
it's a shorter route into the pits, isn't it? So Renauer's only going to cross the line. Well, yes, now he's already crossed the line, hasn't he? That's right, and been scored in fourth position because Sven Muller got to the pit lane speed limit line before the Robert Renauer Porsche reached the start-finish line on the track itself.
It's the pit-in board that's been replaced. Thank you very much for picking that up. So that's going off for their extensive polystyrene collection down in race control. A quick question for Paul, because a thought does occur to me. If this race were to finish under code 60, do you have to finish the race on track?
Yes.
So that stops that trick.
It does,
Otherwise,
yes.
everybody goes to the pits.
Yeah, exactly, because it's a shorter distance. They've already thought of that.
Yes, it was a trick which has been arguable about who started it, but has been suggested that Michael Schumacher's Ferrari team started it. Whether it was Ross Brawn's idea or Schumacher's, I don't know. Discuss that one on Twitter if you want to. But now regulations are written so that you have to take the checkered flag on the track. You can't come into the pits to take the checkered flag.
Yeah, watching that shredded polystyrene there does remind me, you mentioned Michael Schumacher, an incident in British Grand Prix many years back where Damon Hill and Michael Schumacher came together in Woodcote and lots of polystyrene. You're right, it was Luffield, right where I was standing with my then very young son, no longer that young, I'm afraid, and one of the prized parts of his racing memorabilia collections is part of the polystyrene with the tyre mark on.
You referred, well, we've got a code 60, you referred to the accident at the end of the Nürburgring 24 hours a few years ago. My son has a little bit of the Renault Clio.
You know, this is why we get on so well, ladies and gentlemen. This is how exciting our family life is.
That's the Renault Clio that had a bit of, a full GT3 car wedged in the back of it.
Absolutely. Removing debris from the circuit is a reason for the code 60 carrying on. The course car has now reversed back to its holding position by race control. So we'll wait and see how long all this takes. The 1-2-3 comes in, Jan Mardenborough from 39th position overall. That was the leading GT4 car, SP3 car, also in the number 33 Audi. On the car collection, Audi R8 LMS makes a pit stop.
Meanwhile, that's the distance between the first and second place cars. So Jeroen Bleekemolen in the Black Falcon Mercedes AMG and the GRT Grasser Racing Team Lamborghini Huracan of Mirko Bortolotti. Those chaps have been on board the cars since the start of the race. We're just over 45 minutes into it now, 46.5 minutes into the 2017 24 Hours of Dubai.
Well, that's gone remarkably quickly.
Hasn't it just? So, still at code 60 at the moment, and the lights on the starting gantry are continuing to flash as well. There's more action down in the pit lane with the 401 BMW heading past our pit lane reporters and straight for fuel, I reckon, Greg.
Yep, world race debut for that car. That is the brand new, for, would you believe, 2018 customer car from BMW Motorsport. That's the BMW M4 GT4 making its first racing appearance. Has been seen in testing in the latter part of 2016 in full camo livery. Arrived here in that camo livery, but is racing in all over white, apart from using the camo on the rear screen to help the dazzle.
Let's hear from Joe again in the pit lane.
I've walked up, so I've got a grid vantage point on the fuel station. It's, you know what, with the 50% fueling, it clears pretty quickly. It's not like the drivers have to get out and walk in to collect their nectar points, is it? It's just fill up 50% and then go. There's only 3 cars at the station now, just being joined by the number 178 Ginetta with 10 pumps, plenty of space up here. Everything's cleared and everything's gone very, very smoothly on this code 60 fuel stop.
The difficulty is for the teams to know how long the Code 60 is going to continue, because ideally you come in right towards the end of the Code 60. Okay, you can only get your half a tank of fuel, but you get the best value, as it were, from that way. However, what you don't want to be doing is being stuck with the refueling nozzle in the tank whilst it goes green, because then you're losing ground. So it's a tricky one to judge, and all we've been notified from on the screen is just that the Code 60 continues. There hasn't been an indication for how long.
Now, I'm not sure what the capacity is overall on these tanks, but if you have got room for another 45% fuel, then why not? Why not pit again? Fill the tank completely and again, once again, stretch that window.
Yeah, the regulations allow that. Nothing to stop them coming in on 2 successive laps to get 2 half tanks of fuel.
Which goes back to the old, under caution, refueling under caution. It was always a tactic in endurance racing at places like Le Mans, where it's all against the clock, where you will just extend that fuel window constantly and consistently do that under every yellow, pretty much. It's changed now with the multiple pace cars at Le Mans, but fundamentally that's what we used to do. It's an all different kind of tactic on the pit wall that you have to employ with regards to the Code 60 ruling on fueling.
Nick's got a thought on this, unsurprisingly. That would have been great if you just come straight in with it, really. But go ahead.
Unfortunately, you didn't fave me up.
I did.
Oh, well, who knows what. The vagrant. Hey, it doesn't matter. The point is that the pre-coat Herberth 911 came in just a second ago.
Yes.
Normally, and I normally mean all last year, they were the first car in every time. But they go green, so they've made a bit of a mistake. They won't get their full fuel for free, unlike Sven Muller. So a rare early mistake for the 911 car.
That's Nick Damon in the pit lane here at the 2017 Dubai 24 Hours. We're back to green flag running, Graham Goodwin.
We're back to green flag running again, back to nose-to-tail action, and it was nifty trigger feet there. And the number 963 Lamborghini just lost a bit of track space there to another Lambo. Didn't quite see the number on that car. I want to come back to another Lamborghini story in just a moment, because the number 10 Limp Motorsport Huracan was one of the pit callers under Code 60. 911, the guys are quite right, is in the fuel station now, so will not be doing as well out of this this return to green that many of the cars ahead on track did. But Jerome Bleekemolen and Mirko Bortolotti stayed out 1.1 seconds the last time they crossed the line. It's still that order. There was certainly some body language from both cars, both drivers, as we got closer to the race going back to green, that indicated that things were about to get exciting. To explain why that went on a little longer, it's pretty clear that race control wanted that shredded pit-in marker replaced.
Yes.
That was what was the delay, so they were sourcing the correct replacement marker at that point. Taking a little while to fit that. That's now done. We're back to green flag racing, and we have just 23 hours, 8 minutes and 37 seconds of racing left.
Although another slow car out on the track, the Duo Racing BMW M235 Racing Cup car.
Left rear puncture for that car.
Okay, so that shouldn't mean that it can't get back to the pit lane. Just stay off the racing line, allow everyone else to funnel by, and assuming that tyre doesn't start to disintegrate and eat away at the rear left bodywork, hopefully that Duo Racing car can get back in one piece, and we should be able to stay green, Paul.
Which will be good news. I was going to, just before we went back to green flag racing, just reflect, we said earlier on, I think, that the number 66, Attempto Racing Porsche, had gone underneath the minimum reference lap time. In fact, it didn't. It only went underneath the theoretical minimum reference lap time, and it is only important for non-A6 AM cars. The theoretical, this is complicated, the theoretical minimum reference lap time is important for the SP2s, but not for the A6 AMs. A6 AMs are just reliant upon the actual minimum reference lap time, not the theoretical one.
So no problem for that car.
So no problem for the 66. However,
Excellent.
The two that do have a problem in A6 or have already burnt 2 jokers are the Hoffer Racing, Christian Frankenhat, we did mention that one, number 1, which was on his first flying lap, and also the number 18, the Corvette of the V8 racing team, which dipped underneath by quite a margin actually on his first flying lap with, I think it was Duncan Huysman who was driving the car still at the wheel of the V8 racing Corvette number 18. Other than that, though,
is this thing about theoretical lap times new for this year?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I don't remember all that before.
To explain the theoretical lap time, that's the fastest collection, the collection of the 3 fastest sector times. 4 fastest sector times, isn't it?
Yes, for that car.
Yes.
3 fastest sector times.
Apologies. Right.
So it's the sum of the 3, which prevents effectively sandbagging, because the idea in the non-A6 classes is that the minimum reference lap time should be the fastest that car can go, regardless of who's driving it. And so that's the design of that rule in SP2, and particularly the SP3 class, and potentially SPX as well. So something to be borne in mind. They are having difficulties from the organisers' point of view implementing it, because it's quite a complex thing to do, but it's so far working quite well, and no doubt, as Creventic have a habit of doing, the rule will be fine-tuned as we go through the season in order to not upset anybody and to keep everybody happy and fair.
Good news for fans of BMWs with the numbers 1 twice and 4 on the side. 114 that was in trouble with that shared hub, I think Nick Denman was saying, is back out on track. So been sorted in good order. Begin to see some smokiness from the wheel arch of that car. Let's hope that Hankook holds together long enough. It's beginning to roll off the rim, but is coming back. Will make it back to pit road, and does so if he can turn the car properly.
Yeah, it's a job, isn't it?
Oh, he's struggling.
Work the car, just coax it towards the pit lane.
Yes.
Well, that's the easy bit. Now there's some 90-degree right-hander, and actually copes with it pretty well.
Well done, sir.
But yes, the wheel arch, and quite a sharp wheel arch of metal there, starting to slice the tyre that is working its way loose, as Graham says. So the chances of that delaminating before pit lane were pretty high, but the driver of it has nursed that car to the pit lane and done a tremendous job.
Well, there's a couple of numbers to look for. 3rd position now, with some of the other cars ahead of it prior to code 60 having pitted, is the number 16 SPS Automotive AMG of Lance David Arnold. Now the top, well, how many of those cars? It's the top 11 have not pitted. The 11th place car now is the first car to have pitted for half a tank of fuel. That's Sven Müller in the number 12 car. So the number 12, that's the Montai car, has profited from that and is ahead now of the 911 Herpeth car that was previously ahead on track. The gap on track between those cars is around 1 minute and 5 seconds. That's Sven Müller from the leader, who will have to pit earlier for fuel. So it's about 1 minute and 5 seconds for the first of the cars in the order that has pitted and now has got a full tank of fuel, from the leader overall that hasn't.
Frederick Schmidt has made it to the pit lane, and we were watching on the live stream the tyre being changed. Nick Damon won't be very far away from that.
I was next to it, and the impressive thing is he's done absolutely no wheel arch damage whatsoever. There's no substitute damage around it, though interestingly, I think he's getting back in the car again. No, it's wait, let's bring someone else's outfit. Oh, it's Marie Demont. Jean-Marie Demont is getting it instead now. So do a driver change as well. But he did a brilliant job. He got it back. He's not damaged the car at all. He's hit the car in neutral. They're now suiting and booting up Jean-Marie, and they'll get out. So interestingly, of course, that is the same. They're in the same garage as the 114. So double BMW disaster in the first hour. But that's a good thing. There's 23 hours to make it up.
Absolutely right, and the recovery begins now with all 4 tyres inflated on that car. It may well call for fuel before it works its way back out onto the circuit.
114, as you say, back out on the circuit as well, the JR Motorsport BMW. Bob Herber has stayed behind the wheel, as far as I can tell, which is not a problem because the time he spent in the pits won't count towards his driving time. In any case, his time spent in the pits was very nearly 21 minutes. And as we said during one of the practice qualifying sessions, in reply to a question, the pit stop time does count as rest time. So whilst Bob Herber was in the pits, he was, in inverted commas, resting. That was sufficient time for him to be allowed to take the car out again. So Bob Herber back out again after a 20-minute pit stop with that BMW number 114.
trouble again for the number 48 car. Had just got out of the pits for what is, I think, the third time. Has stopped again, I'm afraid, on track. This time at turn 2. Yellow flags there at the moment.
Okay, and that's the area where the 247 car just worked its way through. So past the caution area, the Writer Engineering KTM Crossbow. Pursued by, is that Bortolotti?
That's Bortolotti. That is Bortolotti. Yes, he's dropped 5 seconds back in traffic.
Wow. Okay, I missed that.
So what's going to be key here is exactly where that 48 car has stopped. If he stopped on the inside, there is a way back there with intervention vehicle. Intervention vehicle with them now, and that it looks to me to be on the inside of the track.
The car collection, one of 2 car collection motorsport Audi R8s, was just ahead, by the way, of Mirko Bortolotti, but not on the lead lap. So it's still Blake Molen and Bortolotti first and second, but 5.8 seconds is the gap now. Christopher Haase has worked his way up to 3rd position. Lance David Arnold certainly made quick work as well of some of those cars in the top 10. He was starting to overtake take them legitimately, but of course he's also not called for fuel, and therefore some of the cars around him or ahead of him in the race before that code 60 did stop. Lance David Arnold did not, and therefore he's running 4th in the SPS Automotive Mercedes.
Yeah, those two have swapped a couple of times on the last couple of laps, Johnny. The Optimum Motorsport Audi and the SPS Mercedes. Before the code yellow, they were running with 14 ahead of 16, and then after the code 60, the purple period, so the SPS Mercedes got ahead, but now you've seen, as you say, Christopher Haase getting himself back ahead of Lance David Arnold then. So those two having a nice little battle out on the track.
Yellow flags to the back straight. The leader is getting away. He's taken another 2 seconds, or almost 2 seconds, out of Bortolotti, but also keeping an eye on that gap back to Sven Müller. He's taken something like 5 seconds out of the leader since we went back to green. So Sven Müller in the number 12 car, having made that stop and therefore has of course a heavier car, despite that is making progress on the AMG. So the yellow flags, of course, in the back straight were for the intervention vehicle taking the shortcut with the number 48 car under tow. So those yellow flags now withdrawn. We're back to green across the full circuit.
And we're exactly 1 hour into this year's Dubai 24 Hours at the Dubai Autodrome. You're tuned to RadioLeMans.com. Thank you for joining Graham Goodwin, Paul Truswell and Johnny Palmer here in the main commentary box. We've got Joe Bradley and Nick Damon pounding the pit lane and giving us all the updates with regard to standard stops, for which we will have quite a collection of those in the next hour or so. We've had cars fueling to 50% of their quota when a lot of them came into the pits for the code 60, the first code 60 of the race, and that accounted for just how long, Paul, in the first hour? Code 60 was
11 minutes and 12 seconds.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Interesting one here for the boys to chase down, and pointed out to us on Twitter by Right Turn Lover. I did notice that Sven Müller had taken track position from the 911. That despite the fact he spent 50 seconds longer in the pits than the 911. So it might be worth finding out what happened in those 2 stops, whether or not there was any kind of issue for Sven Müller, but he picked up position despite the fact he was on pit road for almost a minute longer than 911. 911, by the way, has just dropped back a further place.
Well, 911, remember, was in the pit lane when it went green again, so it didn't spend as long in the pits, but lost out because everybody else was going at green flag racing speed.
Correct.
Whilst he was still in the pits.
So it's been double trouble for him, really, isn't it?
For the 911 car,
It should have taken advantage. Had he managed to pit that car earlier, they would have taken full advantage.
And he had the opportunity to. He came past the pit lane entrance whilst the purple flag was being displayed, but chose not to come in.
However, what we still don't know is why he was in the pit, while the other car was in the pit lane for longer, or rather why that car was in for shorter, unless they opted to just go when it went green.
Probably, yeah, they just went when it went to go when it was possible to go.
And Sven Müller, on the other hand, didn't pit, I think, at the first possible opportunity, because the 12 car
They were in close proximity. They came in more or less together. No, the 12 car came in earlier.
Yeah. No, but I'm just trying to work out, because Blake Molan and Bortolotti crossed the line as the Code 60 came out. The track back where the 12 was probably didn't have an opportunity to pit on that lap. So the very next time around, Sven Muller came in.
Correct.
And they were quick thinking there for it, Manthey Racing. I shouldn't be surprised about that.
Not really.
Correct.
So the error, if an error was made, is in not pitting the 911 car at that stage. They have lost out. They've got less fuel, therefore, on board than the 12 car does as well.
Yes. Yes, there is the 911 in question and running now in 11, 12, 13, 14th position. And 12th in the A6 Pro category, but there are two A6 AM cars ahead of it now. Duncan Houseman in the class-leading V8 Racing Chevrolet Corvette, and Stuart Hall in the GP Extreme Renault RS01. That's car 27. We haven't seen a great deal of so far. I'm sure our TV director there will change that in the next couple of hours. We've got two really smart-looking GP Extreme Renault RS01s that appeared in the Abu Dhabi Gulf 12 Hours last month.
So, next impressive stat is fastest lap of the race at the moment, by the way, has gone to Jerome Bleekemolen in the 1:59.215 in the lead car, 6.2 seconds now ahead of Mirko Bertolotti.
On lap 2.
Absolutely. But that's exactly my point. You're quite right, Paul, that those fast laps came before they got into traffic. However, with 90-plus cars on the circuit, the current pace of the quickest cars is well down into the 201s. 201.131 for Bortolotti last time around, so less than 2 seconds slower than the fastest time that car's done, despite the fact there is massive traffic. Latest into pit road is the, I actually think, gorgeous Kodak liveried number 76 IMSA Performance Porsche.
Maxime Jus at the wheel of that.
From 7th position, that one, Johnny.
So will they do a driver change, or are they happy just for Maxime to push on in that 7th place Porsche? We'll see where that re-emerges, but that will provide an opportunity for Jordan Kroger to move up a position in the slightly better placed GP Extreme Renault. Edex Sport and Alban Baruti, number 17, is going to gain a spot as well. Maxime Jus, by the way, is going to stay on board the IMSA Performance Porsche.
Dose of fuel, unsurprisingly.
And there's the 964 Lamborghini Huracan of Christian Engelhardt, which was troubling the top 10 in the early stages. It's fallen out of that now running in 13th position.
But that's because it's one of the pit stoppers.
Yes.
Yeah, that's because it's one of the better placed pit stoppers. He's making pretty good progress. Had a huge gaggle of traffic to deal with at the end of that lap and did it pretty well.
So the best placed pit stopper being Sven Muller for Manthey Racing. And then it's Christian Engelhardt, isn't it? Because we're still waiting for Maxime Jus to feed back into the mixture. Here is Mirko Bortolotti from 2nd position on the road then.
Well, I was about to say to Paul, what do we think under those conditions? Of course, with 11 minutes under Code 60, a realistic full stint is. Well, I think we're about to find out. It's about this.
It's very difficult to say what a full stint is, because there's two ways
fuel stints, I mean.
Yes, but there's two ways of measuring it. You can either measure a fuel stint in terms of how much you can go on the tank capacity of the car, which is 120 litres, or how much you can go on the tank capacity that you can put in. And that varies depending which car you've got.
Correct.
So at the moment, or at the start of the race, they were all brimmed full of fuel. There were 120 litres on board. So they can all go up to, I reckon, about 36 laps.
Okay.
Now, they may choose not to, because any time between when they've got enough space in the tank for their fuel allocation, which might be 90 litres, it might be 100 litres, it might be 105 litres, depending on what sort of car you've got, any time between when you've got space for that much until when you're empty is your fueling window.
Yep.
But it means that within that window, you've got flexibility to come in.
So sensibly, at this point of the race, if Bortolotti is suffering with tyres, it's time to come in. If they realise that the traffic ahead of him is going to cripple his attack, it's time to come in. His pace has been going off just a little. It's the right time to come in, get some new boots and get a full tank of fuel in that car.
New voice in the pit lane, and that will be Bruce Jones.
It's rather the far end of the pit lane for his pit stop, and it was absolutely standard. He pulled away, sprayed our cameraman Seb with new rubber, and then went to take on fuel. But it's actually very quiet in the pit lane. I know it comes in flurries. I wasn't here for the first hour. I was sitting in the press room watching it all happen and out on track as well. But calm at the moment. But the pit stops that we're having as the Zetanet Honda goes back into the race, all standard, apart from Zetanet, where it's becoming standard because they've made quite a few already.
Okay, thank you for that. Bruce Jones there. I'm wondering whether we were hearing that. No, we weren't. Okay, that was entirely my fault because we got 2 faders on the go here, and sometimes I'm right, and most of the time I'm wrong. But anyway, here's Graham Goodwin.
Yellow flags between turns 10 and 11. No news yet as to why that's the case. I'm sure we will see very soon. It's car 73 as an additional problem has spun at turn 7 and continued. Yellow flags have been withdrawn, so whatever car was in woes has continued. Car 73, meanwhile, is the HRT Performance Porsche Cup car. Traffic is terrific, and I mean that in terms of volume rather than experience of those involved. Blake Molan now leads Christopher Haase, of course, with the pit stop for Mirko Bortolotti. The lead gap now, by the way, almost 20 seconds. It's 19.1 seconds. But Jerome Bleekemolen is making very rapid progress, also moving very quickly and closing in on Lance David Arnold for 3rd position. Christopher Mies in the number 4 WRT Audi, 4th position, but taking time out of the car ahead of him. Sven Müller and his progress. Remember, he is a car that has had a pit stop for half a tank of fuel at least. He's 8th. And catching cars ahead, but not the leader just at the moment. Still that gap around a minute.
Three abreast into the Lapri there, and the 21 SPS Automotive Mercedes, still driven by Lance David Arnold, certainly in the thick of action, heading up to turn 14. Successfully negotiated, and Christopher Haase still in 2nd position. The SPS Automotive car is 3rd. To Joe Bradley, who is now joined by Stuart Lynn.
Stuart, having just got out of that number 231 Optimum Motorsport Ginetta. Stuart, you're the first driver I've had the opportunity to talk to about the start. How was it? It looked quite frantic from where I was standing.
Yeah, better than I thought, really. It's always a bit nervous going into the start of a long race. You just want to make sure that you get it around the first few corners and the first lap and the first stint. So no, I'm pleased. It wasn't too frantic from my point of view. So yeah, it was.
I noticed the car didn't take on fresh tyres, or did I miss that? It looked to me as though you just swapped drivers, or did I miss the tyre change?
No, that's right. The car felt great still. No need to change tyres on this occasion anyway.
All right, and so is that going to, do you think double stinting the tyres is the way to go, considering we're in the heat of the day here? It's going to bode very well for this evening and into the night.
Yeah, that's the plan. I think we can easily double stint the tyres, maybe even triple stint them into the nights, but we'll just have to see, really.
Conditions-wise, from a driver's point of view, it is the heat of the day. Pretty physical. I know you've got a sweat on, but so have I, and I'm standing out here.
Yeah, it was actually. I mean, we've obviously got our drinks bottle, we've got the cooling pipe. I ran out of water with 15 minutes from the end, so yeah, I'm actually quite glad that they brought me in.
Thanks, Stuart. I'll leave you to get some proper water down here now and rehydrate. Thanks, Stuart. Stuart Lynn there at the 231. A pretty straightforward pit stop it was for the Optimum team, and it will by now have had fuel and be out back in the race.
Thank you, Joe. Good to hear from a driver who is very enthusiastic about his racing. Graham?
Absolutely, and Optimum Motorsport having a very varied weekend in terms of the machinery they're campaigning. Up at the sharp end with the number 14 Audi, 2nd position overall for the 14 car, the A6 Pro car in the hands of Christopher Haase. The GT4 Ginetta, and of course had an overall race win earlier in the week with the 2nd of the 3-hour races with their first run with the Ginetta G57 P2. So the Optimum crew have been busy boys and girls this weekend. Here is the Optimum car, flashing the lights as the car comes up behind one of the Hankook Autotech cars. Goes to the inside line in turn 1. Christopher Haase trying to close down Jeroen Bleekeman. It's not working at the moment. That gap is coming out into the pits. And the latest stopper for the significant runners comes the number 16 car. That is from, well, its 3rd position as it went for pit lane. 4th is across the line. Lance David Arnold cedes that position to Christopher Mies. So it's Bleekemolen from Haase, from Mies, the top 3 now.
So 16 SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes just being tended to in the pit lane. Jeroen Bleekemolen carries on, by the way. That car still hasn't made a pit stop, nor has Christopher Haase, nor Christopher Mies, up to now 4th position. The best placed car that has pitted is Sven Muller still in the Manthey Racing Porsche. That car is 7th.
Well, strictly speaking, it's number 16 because that car has now pitted. The SPS Automotive. Lance David Arnold, I saw walking away from the car. So let's take a stab on Tom Monzo-Cole having been...
Didn't look like Tom's helmet. Didn't look like Tom's helmet.
Tom's getting in, or...
Tom getting in. It didn't look like his helmet. I only got a quick look, but I didn't think it was.
We'll wait till it comes up on the ID anyway. The car's gone up to be refueled, so that car, when it rejoins, will be a fair comparison on a full tank of fuel, stop made under green racing conditions, to a half tank of fuel, as was done by the number 12 Porsche, the Manthey Racing car. When that came in, it only got half a tank of fuel, but it did so under purple racing conditions, so it will go above. So even though they'll both be shown on the timing screen as having done 1 pit stop, they're not comparable pit stops in real terms. So we need to kind of have some kind of, don't change this, Rob, we need to have some kind of flag on the pit stop column to tell us whether it was a real pit stop or a half
0.5 pit stop. Okay.
But no, we don't want to change that because that will make life far too complicated.
Yes.
But it's something to think about.
It is.
We've already run out of columns on our timing screen.
This is the point at which, or it's not the point at which, late in the evening, it's the point at which when we're trying to work out what's actually happened here, that we've got to go into memory mode and remember what happened 11 hours previously when we weren't quite so tired. Yeah. But at the moment, no time to be tired.
No, indeed.
Jeroen Bleekemolen actually loses a little bit of time last time around to Christopher Haase. Sorry, Johnny.
I'm loving all the columns on my timing screen. Unfortunately, the one I've lost, because it's the first one to be bumped off.
It's the position.
It's the positions, yeah. So I can't tell you whether a car's in 10th or 14th. Oh, look over there. Yeah, but that's often where Trussers is stood. I can see it on that one, though, I noticed, so that's all right. OK. I was getting used to counting down to about 25 and telling you that's where Jelmer Berman was. Anyway, the number 12 car is Sven Muller and is very quickly scything its way through traffic. There's the Manthey Porsche, and it darts from one direction to another so succinctly, with a couple of the stray touring cars just trying to stay out of its way. Slow car at turn 14 now.
That's one of the Seat Leons coming through 14 now, and moving off driver's right and heading towards pit lane. Trying to pick out the number of that car as it... no, it's not going to... Is he going to get to pit lane? He's carrying on. He's not pitted.
OK. The 18 Chevrolet Corvette from Racing is now on pit road, by the way, and they are doing a driver change there. Joe Bradley's stood right next to that. Tell me what you can see, Joe.
I can see a full pit stop coming off here. They've taken off the tyres. They've put brand new unscrewed rubber Hankook tyres going on. They've had a driver change. They're replenishing something or other in the rear of the car, or maybe just checking something. That's where the drivetrain is. And it's a full service for the number 18 Corvette. V8 Racing. We'll try and get a word with the driver that just come out. It's running 8th in the race, I believe, Johnny. Is that correct?
No, I need to peer over to the screen with the positions on, and yes, you're absolutely right.
When you do get a word, Joe, it was Duncan Forsman who's got out of the car.
Excellent.
He burned a joker in the early laps, and you might want to ask him about that, whether there was anything he could do, or whether he was aware that he was about to burn his joker.
How much did he burn his joker by? Was it a massive conflagration or just a flicker?
Two tenths.
That's hardly a flicker, isn't it?
I think it's on a 205 joker.
Yeah, 276, and so quarter of a second.
Yeah. Meanwhile, by the way, it was the 135 Seat that was coming around slowly, came past us slowly. So whether or not he was balked on the pit lane entry, Frank Bieler-like, I think it was possible that he was. It did seem he did have that opportunity to continue in. I can only suggest to you guys either he's working a problem, in which case he was coming down the main straight in the middle of the track, which didn't seem terribly sensible, or he's made an error.
No, it struck me that he could have quite easily moved to the right-hand side as he was coming towards the pit lane entrance. Just to round off a statement that I was going on about earlier on, the SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes has been taken over by Valentin Pierberg. As into the pits now comes the leader, Johnny.
Yeah, here comes your own Bleekemolen then for Black Falcon. And you can see the United Arab Emirate flag on the wing end plates there, which is always a nice touch from Black Falcon. And it's the Abu Dhabi racing team arm of the German squad. And door is this time open, so Jeroen steps out. New driver to be strapped in, and a new set of Hankooks. Joe?
Yeah, I'm just making my way up from the pit in, and the leader of this race is indeed on pit road, and we're having again a full service. It's full service time, it seems. Car already off its jacks. That's the car you can hear heading back out. It's not going to head back out though, of course. It's going to turn sharp right and head down towards the service area for fuel. But fresh tyres and a fresh driver indeed for the number 2 Black Falcon. Started from pole and leading the race.
Any idea who was getting into that car, or did you arrive on the scene a little too late?
I arrived a little bit too late.
Okay,
That's how efficient these Black Falcon guys are.
Isn't it just? I know, blink and you'll miss it. Graham?
That stop was as neat as a guardsman's bunk bed. It really was. Absolutely beautifully executed. Just ahead, by the way, of Jeroen Bleekemolen into pit road was Bernd Schneider aboard the number 25. That's the HTP Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3. That car's been in trouble earlier this week for heavy accidents, and they've had to replace the entire left rear corner, I think it was, for the car, but going well at the moment and running well up the order before Bernd brought the car into the pit lane. In fact, 13th at the moment in the fuel area just now.
Third in the AM class, because significantly that car is going to be running as an AM class car. First time that HTP have run in that kind of category. In fact, it's the first time that HTP have been to Dubai as HTP. The last time they were here was when they were still Heiko Motorsport.
In fact, which I think was the world debut of the SLS GT3,
yeah, could well have been
the Goldwing car.
So Bernd Schneider still with the team, but he is the only professional driver amongst the crew. The rest of them really can't do the minimum reference lap time. So from now on, when the other drivers go through, they'll be pushing as hard as they can. Although it may not be falling back that much if they can maintain the minimum reference lap time that they have to. Of course, what that has done has elevated the number 14 Optimum Motorsport Audi into the lead of the race.
Yeah, I don't think this is the first time that Optimum Motorsport have led this motor race. They led last year, I think, in their debut with the Audi.
Yes.
Christopher Harter, though, leads for Optimum Motorsport for the very first time, and we have got 36 laps in the books for the 2017 Hankook Dubai 24 Hours.
Yeah, and Christopher Haase leading by 1.8 seconds from Christopher Mies, Jeroen Bleekemolen's car, and a new driver to be inserted very shortly is about to rejoin. We've seen Jordan Groger, in fact, go through into third position, and now Sven Muller in fourth. To the pit lane and to Bruce Jones.
Jeroen, you started on pole position. You brought the number 3 Black Falcon in the lead of the race. Sorry, the number 2 Black Falcon. All look very good.
Yeah, really fun first stint, having Mirko Bortolotti behind me. We were teammates last year, and we were looking at each other several times like, hey, this is fun. Car was great, especially after the first Code 60. Car was running really good. Just starting to stay out trouble, lots of traffic obviously. People are driving pretty sensible so far. I saw some crazy things, but that's normal. Most people are really so far doing a great job, so got through it pretty well, and yeah, no complaints so far.
So at this early stage of the race, the track conditions are good, there's not too much oil down?
Well, there was a lot of sand on the track at the start. Even when I did my first lap of the race and I came back around, there was still like a cloud of sand from the start. So that's how much sand there was, but it's getting better and better. Just got to try to stay on the racing line. Offline, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, because about an hour and a half before the race was a bit of a sandstorm, which really didn't help. Who's taken over the second stint?
Manuel Metzger is in now, and I think I'm up next again. But it was good. It's not so hot today, so I'm looking forward to turning more laps.
Well, that's often the key here at Dubai. Your own best of luck.
Thank you.
What a delight to see a professional racing driver having clearly thoroughly enjoyed what was a hectic first session for Jerome Blakemon and Johnny.
Yeah, and had a whole load of fun by the sounds of things with former teammate Mirko Bortolotti. This is Manuel Metzger though, and Jerome Blakemon with no real chance of a snooze or a prolonged rest, because he'll need to be alert to get back on board this number 2 car, which is going tremendously well. We have Christopher Haase though out front now, having completed 37 laps and a lead of 7.5 seconds over Christopher Mies, who's just pitted actually, so that will promote Sven Muller to 2nd position. Yes, okay, he was only able to fill the tank well, depending on how much fuel he burnt off from the start of that race, might have been able to brim that tank actually within the 50% quota, but it's a question of how far he can run. He's up to 2nd place though for Manthey Racing, Paul.
Yes, the car's allowed to take on 90 litres normally, so 45 litres when it came in under the code 60. It is inevitable that it will take the lead, of course, because the Optimum Motorsport Audi, number 14, Christopher Haase, will have to come into the pits. I'm surprised he's gone 38 laps, to be honest, because we had some laps under code 60, which probably helped him to save fuel, but 38 laps is a good tank full for a 120 litre tank from the Audi.
Here's a bit more from Joe in the pit lane.
It's just something that I love about Creventic. Here I am watching the number 235 BMW. It's in the Cup 1 class, and instead of just one big wheel nut keeping the wheels on, we've got 5 wheel studs. Like you see, it's kind of a production touring car class, and it really is only at Dubai where you'd see the illuminated position light saying 88th overall.
Fantastic. keep on chugging on. You never know where you might finish.
Absolutely right. Christopher Mies on pit road and just heading down to indeed in the fuel stop now. Sven Muller has moved up therefore to 3rd on the timing screens. It will very soon be 2nd, and the leader though is in the pits, Paul.
Well, it will be the lead of the race because the Optimum Motorsport Audi, as I said, has to come into the pits for fuel. Well, I say has to, doesn't it? Have to, but if it doesn't, then it's going to run out.
Which it did last year.
It did, didn't it? And still came 3rd. That's one of the other beauties of Creventic Racing. Joe was talking about the production nature of the cars, but if you get stuck on the circuit, you can be towed in, fix the car and get on with it. Now, if all you've done is run out of fuel, that only need lose you a lap or 2, and that is what happened to Optimum last year.
Trouble for the number 93 car, which is stopped out on the circuit at turn 4. Yellow flags protecting that at turn 3. That was a beautiful stop from the Optimum Motorsport crew. Absolutely perfectly executed, and the car on the way down to the fuel stop.
And Joe Bradley watched it unfold.
I just want to concur with Graham. That was beyond perfect. That was absolutely on it. These guys had that car moving within a matter of seconds. Driver change, full set of tyres. I was just bemused at how quickly they did it. If these guys are going to keep up that pace and concentration, this was really going to be a race all the way to the end, guys.
But Joe, they share the garage, don't they, with Team WRT, Belgian Audi racing team?
No, Paul. The WRT team, it's the Maybach Ogilvy Porsche that sharing with WRT. There's two Optimum Motorsport cars. There's the Ginetta, which we've already spoke about, and there's the Audi R8, and then there's the Century Motorsport Ginetta. So everyone's a big family down here at the 2B, Garage 2B, or not 2B. It's the Shakespearean garage, I'd like to call it.
On form already, Joe Bradley, and it's early yet. Lots more where that came from, but he's right. Cracking stuff from Optimum Motorsport. They appear to be up for this contest. So Christopher Haase on the fuel point as Sven Muller will have moved through now into the lead. He'd just taken a position, by the way, from the number 28 GP Extreme Renault, Jordan Groger at the wheel of that car. 5 seconds back from the leader with Robert Renauer. A further 26 seconds back in the number 911 car. But Groger still owes us a pit stop. And that must mean, guys, those Renaults are going very long on fuel indeed.
Absolutely right. Yeah. So the GP Extreme Renault is allowed 100 litres of fuel. The Audi R8 is allowed 95. The Mercedes and the Porsches are each... No, sorry, the Mercedes are allowed 100. The Porsches are allowed 90 litres of fuel.
One quick point, by the way. If you're around in one of the international hotels in Dubai at any point this weekend, and a bloke in an orange jacket offers an arm wrestling contest, please make sure he's not one of the flag marshals here, because these guys must have arms like Popeye. Blue flag marshal on the pit wall. I've not yet seen that shot without that blue flag being waved. Absolutely amazing stuff. Well done, guys and girls.
One other thing, just going back about features of that number that you see on the side of the car, giving you the position of the car. I don't know if I've ever seen it happening on the live stream, so it'll be more for the people who are sat in the grandstand, who are sitting in the grandstand watching. When it flashes as it starts the start-finish line, it's not that the car has any particular problem, it just means it's a change. Right. So if you see it coming across the start-finish line and it's flashing, it doesn't mean that the car is going through a recycle or that the guy is turning the engine on and off. It is only that there is a position change for that car as it comes across the line. So it's a kind of a clue, visual clue to the people watching. Not only is that the position of the car, but it is changed.
Another visual clue is the number 93 car. This is the car that had the yellow flags out at turn 4 just a few moments ago. Has made it back, but there's clear signs of contact with something of a solid nature. The spat, although its side of the wheel pulled back, and damage to the front valance of the car too. I think that car might be going into the garage. Into the pits though is the champions of this series from last year, the Hofer Racing number 1 Mercedes-Benz. Christian Frankenhout it was, wasn't it, that started the race in that car?
And they are doing a driver change right in front of Joe Bradley.
Our current ladies champion from 2016. She's about to take part in her first race stint of 2017 and try and retain the Ladies Drivers' Championship. Christopher Frankenhout it is who's gotten out of the car. The car already as ever at Hofer Racing. Unavoidable wheel spin up the pilloway, and Chantal Kroll is back in the race up towards the fueling station.
Pass on track there for position. That was the number 4 WRT Audi. It's Robin Franz going round the outside of Peerberg in the number 16 SPS Performance Mercedes-Benz AMG, and doing it in a comprehensive fashion. A little way down the order now with the marginal mix-up, not mix-up, the mixing of pit stops with some of the teams stopping under the code 60. But that, in reality, was a battle for 25th position at the moment. That's how far back. Significant positional changes happening right now in the A6 class, Paul.
Yes, talking about the GP Extreme Renault RS01 up to second place overall, underwent a bit of a driver shuffle no more than an hour before the race actually started, because for whatever reason Creventic or somebody hadn't realised that the car had 3 pro drivers in it. Louis Delatraz, Jean-Eric Verne and Nicky Pastorelli were all down to drive that number 28 car, and they're not allowed to have 3 pro drivers in there. They're allowed a maximum of 2 pro drivers. So they had to recruit Bassam Cronfleet into the team and shift Nicky Pastorelli across into the number 27 car. So poor old Nicky Pastorelli is now in the AM class car and is therefore constrained by minimum reference lap times. And it's meant that Josh Webster has come from the 27 car and is now in the number 28 car. So Josh Webster, a very late nomination for that number 28 car, which is now running in second place, so he'll be happy with that.
Let's catch up with our crew down in the pit lane. First of all, Bruce Jones.
Christopher Haase just got out of the number 14 Audi. Looked a very good start to the race. How was it from where you were sitting?
Well, of course, so far it was a good start for us. At the end, I think we're like something P2. Well, the car fits great, but it's after that it's quite difficult, you know, with all this traffic. Actually, my first time in the GT3 this year. So it's fun on the one side, but on the other hand, you have to be really focused because of the traffic is the main issue. Yeah, but you know, now we need to get the rhythm and keeping the speed high, but without issues, and then we have a chance to do something good.
Exactly, but what you saw of Jeroen Blekemolen leading in the number 2 Mercedes, he seemed to have very good, strong pace, and also Mirko Bortolotti in the Lamborghini.
Yeah, honestly, in the beginning I couldn't follow at all. The Mercedes and the Lamborghini. I think we are a little bit better on distance, so over 1 hour. But speed-wise, it's tough. But you know, that's racing, so we just try our best.
Now you got the car nice and warm. Who was the second driver in the 14 Audi?
It's Joe Osborne. That's good.
Well, I think it is too. Right, thank you very much, Christopher.
Thanks, guys.
And we speak of Joe Osborne down there in the pits. We've got Joe as well. Mr. Bradley, what have you got?
Yeah, I was watching the Hofer Racing pit stop come off, and just next door was the 93 MSG Motorsport Porsche that I thought was just in for its normal run-of-the-mill service stop. It's not. It's had damage. It's got massive damage on the front end. I say massive damage. Massive bodywork damage. Looks like it's gone nose first into the tyre wall. Cracked plastic on the front bumper, which is pretty much the whole of the front section underneath the headlamps. And they've already reset Seb can see that. They've already put the front end splitter back on, and I'm a bit disappointed to see no tank tape, because there's a huge gap in the plastic there that's just crying out for tank tape to stop the air getting into it. But we'll wait and see. They're still repairing this car.
Thank you, Joe. We're going to do an update in a minute for SBX, but meanwhile...
Into the pits comes the Jordan Groger Renault RS01, as we were expecting it would do, coming in nice and slowly and travelling up the pit lane. 40 kilometres an hour is the speed limit in the pit lane, so it's nice and slow with so many cars, probably very wise. That's going to elevate the 911 Herbert Porsche into second place. I was just trying to do a calculation based on how much fuel the number 12 car took on. The Sven Muller Porsche took on, and I reckon he's probably got enough fuel to get him to lap 45. In any case, he can't go past the 2-hour mark, so he's got fuel for about another 4 or 5 laps, which is going to take him about another 10 minutes, so that'll take him up to quarter to the hour. So Sven Muller may be in the lead with the number 12 Porsche, but won't be there for too long, and then it's going to change again. However, the Herbert Porsche, remember, is in an even worse position probably than the Manthey car, because they took on less fuel in their pit stop. So it's not going to be long before either of those two come into the pits for a routine pit stop, and that could, by the time we get to the top of the hour, Johnny, put the Lamborghini into the lead, the 964 car.
Speaking of Lamborghinis, Andrea Amici using quite an unusual line there to do some lappering way off the track.
Yeah, I do wonder whether or not we're going to start to get some warnings for that, because that's becoming a bit too easy a shortcut. We've seen 2 or 3 of the leading cars doing exactly that. The reason for the SPX update is twofold. Number one is because the car leading at the moment, the 207 Brokenet Silver Sting, fabulous thing, is the leading car in the order that has not yet stopped. At all. The second place car, though, is the number 10 Lippert Motorsports. That's one of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo cars, and there's a story behind that car. Ollie Webb has been in the car, according to timing and scoring from the very start of the race, completely rebuilt in the last 24 hours, that car, around a replacement shell with a replacement engine, a job which the team were told by the GDL racing team that basically have loaned or leased the replacement car to Lippert Motorsport should take about 6 days, but they've done that in 24 hours. Cut a few corners, I think, sort of to get the car out as quickly as they did, but Ollie Webb from the start of the race came up from the back of the grid to the point where we go into code 60 into the top 40, and now runs in that 10 car in 22nd place and is still making progress. So great stuff from the Lippert Motorsport team, around adversity, coming right back up the field and into contention.
So the Brokenet Silver String is
Sting.
Thank you, Silver Sting. Jaap van Lagen, but that's an SP2 car, isn't it? It's not SPX.
It's SPX.
Okay.
It's SP2 according to the timing screen.
Now.
Discuss. And I'll try and get the name of it right next time.
Well, apologies, in which case they are leading SP2. SPX is being led, of course, by the 204 Vortex. My apologies.
Which is a Vortex 1.0, and we've caught a glimpse of that on more than one occasion, the 204 car, which has just been overtaken by the second placed A6 AM car, number 66, which is not on my list, interestingly. That is 66.
That's the Ascento Racing Porsche. That's a 911 GT3R. The other significant class, by the way, in that lead screen is the leading cars in the 991 class. And we've traditionally seen, haven't we, gentlemen, the lead cars in the 991, the Porsche Cup class, effectively, just gradually make their way up the order as other cars hit trouble or as they have delays. And the lead car in that class at the moment is the number 68 Black Falcon car. Anders Fjordbach at the moment is in the lead of the 991 class and is running in a very healthy 18th position. Phil Quaife running second for the Maybach Ogilvy squad.
We were talking about HTP Motorsport a little while ago with the Mercedes and saying it was likely possible that it was going to start to fall down the screen as other drivers took over. Well, they didn't, because Bernd Schneider stayed behind the wheel when it had its pit stop, the number 25 HTP Mercedes. That car is currently 26th place overall, 4th in the A6 AM class. So the pit stop it had did hurt it, but Bernd Schneider is going to run out of driving time. The maximum driving time you are allowed to complete is 2 hours continuous driving, but a change which I've mentioned before for this year is that the time spent in the pits doesn't count towards the driving time. So I think there is a stint time somewhere on the screen, and I'm assured by my good friend Rob, who's looking after all the timing, that that has been adjusted so that it shows the correct driving time, discounting the time spent in the pits.
Which is currently 1 hour and 35 minutes for Bernd.
Right.
On the live stream, we can now enjoy another one of our rounds of onboard cameras. So Murad Sultanov is currently at the wheel of the number 63 Race Pro Motorsport car, this being a Porsche 991 Cup car from the German crew, Race Pro Motorsport, and this is heading onto the back straight now out of turn 9, with Andrea Amici doing an overtake to drivers left in that GT3 spec Lamborghini Huracan with the monster rear wing and huge rear diffuser. And Andrea Amici has with him then I thought that was the Vlasic in the Attempto racing car, but it can't be because they're separated by 8 seconds or so. So there is a Porsche.
It is Philippe Vlasic.
Is it?
Yes.
Behind Amici?
Yes.
Wow, that gap's really come down from the start of this lap then. Because the screen would have me believe that they're separated by 8 seconds.
So it was at the beginning of the lap.
And it's okay, it's clearly a mistake from Andrea Amici somewhere. We know he has picked out some unusual lines working his way through turns 3 and 4 to avoid traffic. I just wonder whether he's gone extra wide on this lap.
Possibly. Going back to that stint column, Graham, and you do get this the stint column on the live timing screen that is provided on the series website and at raceresults.nu. The fact that Bernd Schneider's time behind the wheel doesn't match the elapsed time and is different from other people's time proves that it is correct. They have subtracted the pit stop time from the accumulating stint time there, so we know we can rely on that, and it's right, and everything's working well.
Here's a bit more from Bruce Jones in the pit lane.
Jordan Grovey looked suitably warm. That was a fun opening stint in the GP Extreme Renault RS01.
It was unbelievable, and actually it's an honor to start the race with all these great drivers, great teams, a lot of fun, a little bit of argy-bargy. We try to find some space. There's 22 hours left, so we'll just run our course, see where we end up in the morning, and then hopefully it's all to play for.
Various drivers who did the first stint have said it was quite sandy out on the track. There was a bit of a sandstorm about lunchtime today. How much did you find that a difficulty?
Yeah, there was a bit of sand blowing, but I live in Dubai, pretty used to it. Really doesn't make a big difference to the lap times, and a lot of fun out there.
So who's taken over the number 28 now?
We got Jeff, John-Eric Verne, So he'll do a double. Let's see how it goes and just put ourselves in a good place for the morning.
Now the GP Extreme team did a bit of juggling between the drivers. Could you explain what happened? It was down to Jev having is he platinum or gold, John-Eric?
Jev is, I'm not sure, I think pretty special. But yeah, we got told 1 hour before the race we had to change our lineup, otherwise we couldn't take the start. So a lot of reshuffling, and let's see how it pans out.
Well, let's do so. Go and have a rest. Thanks, Jordan.
That's a brand new category in the FIA precious metals, by the way. Very special, or a bit special. And there is the number 28 GP Extreme Renault RS01 then, with Jev Anders Fjord back at the wheel of the... No, I beg your pardon, the 28 car with Jev at the wheel. Yes, Jean-Eric Verne, and the other GP Extreme car still circulating as well in this fantastic yellow livery, which is very, very Renault. Jev, 26, from Pontoise in France, and with his Formula E and, of course, Formula 1 experience, I reckon he's probably platinum.
As far as Creventic is concerned, there is no such thing as platinum, gold, silver, bronze. They use the terms pro, semi-pro, and AM. And
Jev is pro.
That's right. Jean-Eric Verne is pro, Louis Delatraz is pro, and Nicky Pastorelli is pro. So they are all pros. You're only allowed to have 2 pro drivers. Even if you're running in the A6 pro class, you're only allowed to have two pro drivers. The other thing that you are limited to is that the sum total of the time completed by your pro drivers, whether you have 1 or 2, cannot be more than 12 hours in a 24-hour race. So between Jean-Eric Verne and Louis Delatraz, they are limited to doing 12 hours racing. The others must split the driving between them. They also have to have an AM driver on the crew. Actually, do they have to have an AM driver on the crew if they're in pro? Yes, they do. And Bassam Cronfley must do 2 hours behind the wheel, and the 2 semi-pros are completely flexible. So Josh Webster and Jordan Grover are both defined as semi-pros. They have no limits as to what they have to do, either minimum or maximum.
Rolling down pit lane now is the last of the cars in the top 40. Not to, so far, have pitted. That's about to change. That is the number 207 Brokenet Silversting to the pit road from the lead in SP2. My apologies for my earlier error. A little further down the order and just popping up, I think, into 38th position. Shows that quality counts. The leader of the TCR class, Matthias Besch. Yes, that Matthias Besch in the Modena Motorsports Seat Leon. Leading TCR.
By the way, of the number 93 MSG Motorsport Porsche rejoining after a lengthy spell in the MSG Motorsport garage. But that Austrian Porsche it might be heading for fuel first, but we are going to see that car back into the race. A little more news from Joe Bradley.
Yeah, glad to see the 93 Porsche did get the tank tape out and finish the job off. Few was what I said to that one. However, 99, the RKCT GM Honda has come in for what looked like a normal driver change in service. Ricky Coomber got out, Simon Dayton was getting into the car. He sits in the car, but as they put the wheel on, they found something very, very loose on the left-hand front. Now, this car has already had a wheel bearing failure across the earlier in the week in one of the test sessions, I think. And so it looks to me as though they've had a left-hand front wheel bearing failure. That car now being repaired.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Keep your eyes peeled on that. Now, a note passed to me by Paul Truswell tells me that the 793 car had 17 minutes spent in the garage, so they will be feeling the full force of that once the car completes this lap and they find out precisely where they are in the order.
Of course, they're still fueling it, Johnny, so
they will be,
the time is still ticking on that note that I just passed you.
First, the leading group, by the way, to be in for a second time is the Conrad Motorsport car. It's Mark Basseng. It was aboard the car, Conrad Motorsport Lamborghini 21 car, when it came in. So just watching the patterns behind here with the likes of Joe Osborne and Neil Metzger. And Mirko Bortolotti, by the way, still aboard the 963 car. That car is now up into 8th position overall. It was, of course, the first of the cars in the order that needed a full green flag pit stop. Paul?
Yes, your point about Mark Basseng is relevant because that shows how long half a tank full of fuel will last, because he came in under the code 60. That gives you an indication of where and when we're going to be seeing Sven Muller coming in with the leading Porsche at the moment, the Manthey car.
Well, more to the point, we should be seeing Robert Renauer first.
Well, it will be touch and go because we assumed that Renauer shortened his refuelling in order to get out. But yes, you're right. Yeah. Both of those cars took on half a tank of fuel, but we think that Renauer reduced his time to minimise the amount of green flag lap time that he was losing on the track. And in any event, we've only got 13 minutes before the 2 hours
big trouble! Big trouble for the number 7 car.
Andrea Amici.
It's fire for the HB Motorsport car. Pulls the car to a halt. Fire for the left rear of the car. Gets out.
He's out. And that has happened where on the track? Just trying to work out exactly where that is. Now, Andrea Amici running back to the car, which I don't think is
trying to pull the fire extinguisher. That happened very suddenly. It's a wheel. The tyre's gone. The tyre's gone. 15th position for that car. It will be going no further.
What's caught fire then? Has the tyre worked its way into the engine bay and then caught fire?
The tyre, I think, has failed dramatically and has shredded something like a fuel line.
Yeah, we've seen this before on
He's on the pit-in. He's in pit entry.
On the Lamborghini, where the debris from the tyre means that it gets... it breaks a fuel line, and that then is what causes the fire.
Instantly code 60, of course, and Amici goes and grabs the fire extinguisher and puts the fire out himself.
Well, that's quick thinking, isn't it? He had the door open and was clambering out of the car when it was still moving, and you would do, to be fair, with the amount of flame behind you, and you no idea how much that's going to creep into the cockpit.
Well, it was driver's side as well, which would have made life very uncomfortable. I think he had some flames in the cockpit there.
Yes, yes. And you're running entirely on adrenaline there and wanting to get back to the car and really try and avoid any more damage being done to that very smart Lamborghini Huracan. He's done a tremendous job to pull the pin on the fire extinguisher and get that fire out as quickly as he can.
Which is what he went back to the car to do.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing I'd say here is he did that very quickly. I'm not at this stage going to call that as out of the race.
Probably.
Not yet going to call that car as out the race because you don't know whether or not that was drama from minor damage, which it could easily have been. So the best news in there is Andrea Amici is out and seemingly completely okay. Excellent stuff from I think he was GT Asia champion last year with the Lamborghini.
The kill switch as well, which will be on the side of the car, I suppose, for the marshals, will it, when they arrive on scene. And to be fair to them, they were very quick and alert to get there as quickly as possible. It just really depends where they are deployed on the various posts around this track. But
now this has fallen beautifully for the 911 Porsche.
Yes.
Because they were due in.
For both the 911 Porsches, because the number 911 Porsche and also the number 12 Porsche was due in. And it's not fallen badly either for everybody else, because they've been able to make the pits that the Lamborghini has pulled into the pits. The 964 car, which I was suggesting was going to be the leader of the race, and the 963, which is further down, so the two remaining Lamborghinis, I suppose. And the car that has stayed out and therefore is going to be taking the lead of the race is another Porsche, but this is the Porsche Racing Porsche, number 29, which currently has behind the wheel of it
Lucas.
Now,
this is the car, while you're looking that one up, that's the Fox Motorsport by Limp car. This is the car we'll see Robert Kubica in later, and this is a car that moved up because Robert joined the squad from Am to Pro earlier this week. And went very well indeed in qualifying as well for a period of time. It's going to be a very busy pit lane now.
And the man down there is Joe Bradley.
Yeah, I'm just standing out the way because we've pretty sight the M25 coming in here. The number 5 Audi came by with a flailing, punctured left rear tyre. That will have to get that tyre changed before it takes on fuel. A lot of the cars, though, like we saw earlier, just filing past their pit boxes and going straight to the fuel station. Just once again, we're seeing them just eke out that fuel window a little bit more.
That's the name of the game. The number 14 car with Joe Osborne now at the wheel also came into the pits that time around. There was quite a steady stream of vehicles. Now a gap in the traffic, although here comes the little Audi RS3, which was in TCR sprint race action this morning when James Kay was pedalling that very quickly indeed. Plenty of door banging taking place in that touring car race. Slightly more sedate run so far in the opening, what have we had, hour and 52 minutes now.
Fire marshals are not content that that is not going to burst back into flames, and indeed there is more smoke coming from the rear of the car, so still obviously things very hot under the engine cover. It's got another healthy dose of extinguishant. But scary moments when you see a race car at any sort of speed with fire, but excellent stuff from the driver there, I thought.
I wonder whether it was actually an oil link that went, because I noticed that the clerk of the course or the marshals are now putting down oil dry on the route that was taken by the car as it pulled off there.
It's almost exactly the same place as we had a fire for a Lamborghini last year, Paul.
Yes, I'm being confused because it also happened to, I think, 2 Lamborghinis at Paul Ricard 24 hours last year.
I always remember the Pregert Herbert Motorsport Lamborghini that the Renault brothers brought to this event last year, and that caught fire in one of the sessions, and that was over at turn 3.
Yeah.
That wasn't in the race though, that was in, I think, free practice fairly early on in the week. But this is quite clearly related to the rear left tyre puncturing, and it looked like the rubber had just been stripped entirely from the wheel. That was just a rim, wasn't it?
Just went. I think
it's just gone in a big style and taken, presumably, an oil line or indeed a fuel line with
both.
it. Well, yeah, anything that's in its way as the tyre has left the car at high speed. Not sure whether we can maybe grab some pictures of that incident before it became a dramatic fireball.
And it was only 16 laps into Andrea Amici's stint, so no reason for tyre wear to be the cause of that tyre failure. What we did see at it was Paul Ricard was some suggestions that it was all down to camber angle that was being run. That puts pressures or strains, perhaps is a better word rather than pressure in terms of a tyre, put strains on the tyre where it wouldn't otherwise get them.
The number 12 car, one of many to pit under this second Code 60 of the race, and Bruce Jones is down at Manthey Racing now.
Sven Muller, very good stint. This is your second time in the pits. You came in during the first Code 60, took half a tank of fuel. Seemed a good tactic.
Yeah, I mean, the stint was longer than expected. We took the opportunity to refuel car, new tires, and then, yeah, I had a good start. Was really funny and nice. Yeah, could go up to P3, and yeah, then we had car is good. With the traffic is really nice. I expected it worse, but also the slower cars, they have an eye on the faster cars, so it's really fun to drive. Obviously, it's really hot here in Dubai, but I think this is proper racing.
So you've handed over the Manthey Racing Porsche to Matteo Cairoli. But again, another Code 60, very busy in the pit lane. Quite hard to make space for the car.
Yeah, exactly. It was I just passed the finish straight, and then they called me in for driver change. Yeah, but it was okay. We didn't lose any time in the pits, so I'm glad to do this good.
Good work. Thanks, Sven.
Sven Muller joining Bruce Jones there, and the number 12 car, after nearly 2 hours of this race, really going pretty strongly at the moment. An early race favourite for my money.
Looking at the timing screens, pretty confident that Andrea Amici had that problem well before that. His middle sector time was 74 seconds, so I think he'd had a puncture and was trying to get his way back. So obviously the tyres let go initially earlier on the lap, and then finally dramatically and disastrously just before we managed to get back to safety. So car is actually now almost on the flatbed. Here we go. This is the end of that incident, Johnny.
Yeah, that's where the fire took strong hold. So tyre already gone by that point, and all of a sudden, boom, the fire just starts from nowhere. And yeah, we're reckoning it is an oil fire rather than being fuel related. So the car now looking very sorry for itself, covered in fire extinguishant. And first job for the team will be, this is by the way a replay of Andrea Amici getting very quickly out of the car and being caught there by one of the very many cables that a driver is plugged into this car. That might have been actually for the radio, and his head was violently yanked back, thinking that he was free of it, and then realising, no, we've still got to pull this cable out now as well, and then he made a dash for it. The cogs went round in his brain, thought, I can probably pull the kill switch on this car if I'm brave enough to run back. And full marks for Andrea to do that. Now, the car is on the move via a flatbed, yes. There's the bald wheel, if you like, that once had a tyre on it, and that had long been dispatched from the vehicle before we saw it on that replay. Still got the Hankooks fully inflated on the right hand side of that car, and it will return to the pit lane. Just coming into our site now, Graham.
Now, the point I'm just looking at another green Lamborghini coming down pit road, and that's the 964 car. That will be consecutive pit stops on consecutive laps, Paul. Do we think that is them putting in a full tank of fuel?
Yes.
Effectively.
Or two half tanks.
Two half tanks of fuel.
Amounts to the same thing. And that will, I suspect, be the same tactic used by everybody else as well, which is going to keep us on our toes and also make even more necessary the extra columns for different types of pit stops, because not only do you have a half tank, you have fuel, tyres and a half tank, and then also doing what they've done now, which is a kind of secondary stop on the next lap around, because although the car has been removed from the place of danger, what we haven't got is a racetrack that can be raced on again because of the oil dry that is still being put down by the marshals. So there's still work being done on the circuit to neutralise the effect of the Lamborghini going off. And we now have a little truck going.
That's the sweeper.
The road sweeper, isn't it?
The road sweeper, is it? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So they're going to be removing any bits of rubber debris, the wire that all sorts of debris from this one, I'm afraid.
And the number 7 Lamborghini in question, on the back of a flatbed, is now heading right round the back of the paddock to be delivered, I presume, to the team via the rear door on their garage. We're nearing the end of hour 2 of this year's Dubai 24 Hours, the 2017 edition. And in a moment or two on the live stream, we will be able to enjoy highlights, and there have been many of them over the last 2 hours. Meanwhile, on RadioLeMans.com, I'll be stepping away and handing over to John Hindhaugh in just a moment or two's time.
So a very, very exciting first 120 minutes of the 24 hours of Dubai 2017, the Hankook 24 hours here at the circuit.